They said the river demanded sacrifice. For generations, maidens were dragged to the silver waterfall, their screams swallowed by the roar, their blood feeding the serpent that kept a cruel queen in power. But when the next maiden chosen was Adura, the beloved of Prince Baku, the kingdom trembled. What the queen never told her people was the darkest truth of all: she was once a priestess herself, who betrayed her sisters and bound the sacred anaconda with blood magic. The beast was never meant to hunger for flesh, it was meant to guard the river. And now, the queen feared one thing more than rebellion: Adura's awakening. Because when Adura stepped into the cavern of bones, the serpent did not strike. Its golden eyes bowed to her. In that moment, the queen's lies began to unravel, and a battle of love, blood, and destiny began. What followed would topple a throne, awaken ancient power, and turn a simple village girl into a legend whispered for centuries, the Maiden of the Anaconda. This is the story of how one girl, chosen to die, became eternal. Before we dive deeper into this epic tale, we'd love to know, where are you watching from? Tell us in the comments. And if you love high-stakes fantasy filled with mermaids, magic, love, and sacrifice, don't just watch, be part of our adventure. Like this video, share it with someone who loves powerful stories, and hit that subscribe button. Because tomorrow, we've got an extra special story lined up for you, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. The jungle woke before the sun. Leaves shook like green hands. Monkeys called. In the dark, the river sang the same song it had sung for 1,000 years. It flowed from the hills, slid under roots, and crashed down a high cliff in a bright white sheet. The waterfall looked like a long silver cloth the sky had dropped. Mist rose from it, soft and cool, and the air smelled of wet stone and sweet flowers. Behind the waterfall was the mouth of a wide cavern. People said the cavern breathed. In the morning, cool air blew out. At night, warm air pulled in. If you stood close, you could hear a deep slow sound, like a sleeping drum. If you looked into the dark too long, the dark looked back. Children did not play there. Hunters left offerings there. Even the bravest men did not turn their backs on that shadow door. The villagers in Uru village lived not far from the falls. Their homes were round and neat, with smooth clay walls and roofs of palm leaves tied tight. Smoke from cooking fires curled into the trees like thin snakes. On this morning, the market square filled with soft sounds, grinding stones, pestles tapping in mortars, water sloshing in calabashes. A woman hummed while she tied cloth to a baby's back. A boy ran, chasing a chicken that did not want to be caught. And above all, the river kept singing, as if the water had a secret to tell. Adura walked along the path that hugged the river's side. She carried a basket on her head and a smaller one on her hip. Her clay-brown skin shone in the early light. Her long braids were tied back with a strip of cloth the color of ripe mango. Adura moved like water, soft, steady, never forcing, never rushing. When she smiled, the worry lines on her mother's face grew lighter. She stopped under a tall tree and spoke to the river, as she often did. "Good morning," she said. "I brought you flowers today." She crouched and laid 3 small white river flowers on a flat stone. The petals looked like moonlight. "Please watch over us," she whispered. "Please keep us safe." The river answered the way it always did, with soft lapping sounds against stone. But today, Adura felt something extra in the wind, a thin voice, like the river was trying to speak words. She stood still. The mist touched her cheeks. The voice was not clear, only a little sound, almost like her name stretched out inside a sigh. A-Du-Ra. She drew back. Who is there? She looked left and right. The trees only shook their leaves. A kingfisher bird flashed blue and green and then was gone. A group of children ran down the path and skidded to a stop when they saw her. "Adura," cried Saad, who had bright eyes and a louder mouth than most. "Grandmother F is telling stories. Come. It is about the waterfall and the big snake." "I have to carry this cassava to Mama Deka first," Adura said, though she smiled. "I will come when I finish." Saad put her hands on her hips. "Stories do not wait. You can carry cassava anytime." Snakes and queens are not patient. The boys laughed, and one of them, a skinny one named Jo, made a hissing sound and waved his arm like a tail. HSSS. The serpent will eat you if you are late, he teased. Stop that, Adura said, but gently. Do not call that name by the water. Why? Jo asked, still grinning, but softer now. Because the water listens, Adura said, and the cavern listens too. Saad wrinkled her nose. Do caverns have ears? They have something better, said a calm voice behind them. They have memories. The children turned. It was Grandmother F herself, walking with her stick, its top carved into a bird. Her hair was white and wrapped in a small cloth. Her brown face was full of lines from a long life, but her eyes were bright like morning. Everyone in URU village loved Grandmother F. She knew songs and stories older than any house in the village. She always told them in a voice that made the heart walk slowly and the spirit sit up. Good morning, Grandmother, Adura said, and the children echoed her, good morning. Good morning, my river leaves, Grandmother F said. Come, sit under the shade tree. My knees are not friendly today, and stories are lighter when we sit. They sat. The ground was warm from yesterday's sun. The shade tree spread wide arms above them. Birds pecked at fallen fruit. Grandmother F took a deep breath. Listen to the river, she said. Do you hear it? Some say it is only water. But those who listen will hear more. They hear footsteps. They hear drums far away. They hear voices that crossed the bridge between life and spirit long ago. Today the river is whispering. Do you know why? Sada's hand shot up. Because of the serpent, she said. Because of the serpent, Grandmother F agreed. Long ago, our river had guardians. They were priestesses who sang the river awake and sang it to sleep. They wore beads of blue and white. They moved like fish in water. They knew the true names of rain. They knew how to ask the earth for mercy. Among them was one who was strong and clever. Her name was Simu. At this, a few elders passing by slowed. They knew this story too, but it still pulled at their ears. Simu was proud, Grandmother F said. Not all pride is wrong. Pride can make you stand tall. But her pride grew too hungry. She wanted not only to guard but to rule. She wanted not only to sing the river awake but to command it. She wanted not only to listen to the serpent under the falls but to bind it. Jo frowned. Bind it? How can anyone bind a serpent from the river? Grandmother F tapped her stick. With what binds all things, she said. With blood and words. Simu betrayed her sisters on a night when the moon was thin. She cut her palm and let her blood fall in the cavern. She called the serpent by a dark name that is not told to children. The serpent came, and she took it with a spell like a net. She made a promise with her blood. She said the serpent would serve her, and in return she would feed it blood of those she chose. People say that was the night the river cried through the rocks. The children huddled closer. Even Sada's voice grew small. Is that why the queen is strong? She asked. Because she was once a priestess. Grandmother F's eyes flicked to Adura for just a moment, then back to the children. The queen we have now wears the name Simu, she said. She wears fine cloth and many beads. Her eyes are sharp and cold. She says the serpent keeps our enemies away and keeps the crops green. But there is a payment, and the payment is heavy. Each year, a maiden goes to the cavern, and she does not return. The children were quiet. Even the leaves seemed to stop moving. Grandmother, Adura said softly, why do we live so close to the waterfall if it brings sorrow? Because we were born by this river, Grandmother F said. It is our house. You do not leave your house because a thief walks on the road. You lock your door. You keep watch. You sing your songs louder. And you teach the children the old names. Adura touched the 3 white flowers in her basket. I hear more in the river today, she said. It said my name. Or something like my name. Grandmother F looked at her a long time. Then she smiled, but it was the kind of smile that had a shadow behind it. "The river speaks to those who listen," she said. "You have always listened, Adura." Saad, who could not keep quiet for long, leaned forward. "Grandmother, will the queen come today? Will she call a name? Will she send her guards?" Grandmother F's hand tightened on her stick. "Do not invite the hawk by asking for its shadow," she said. "Eat your yam and carry water and be kind. That is the work of this morning." A drum sounded from the village center. 1 beat. 2. 3. Slow and heavy, like footsteps of something large. The sound reached them under the shade tree and rested on their skins like a cool palm. "Ah," Grandmother F said softly. "That is the talking drum. It calls everyone. We will go." They rose. Adura lifted her baskets again. The children fell into a line without being told, because the drum told them in a way no word could. People came from the gardens, the fishing spots, the cooking fires. They came to the square. The talking drum sat on a stand in front of the chief's stool, and the drummer's hands moved like birds' wings. The village chief stood. He was old and kind and tired. Next to him was a messenger in bright cloth, with the queen's colors, green and white, like river foam and leaf. The messenger held a staff carved with a snake twisted around it. The sight made the air a little thinner for everyone. "People of you," the chief said, his voice rough. "We have received the queen's word." A small wave moved through the crowd, like wind through grass. Mothers pulled children close. Fathers set their jaws. Old men fixed their eyes on the ground. Grandmother F did not blink. The messenger unrolled a long strip of palm leaf. His voice was smooth like oiled wood. "By the order of Queen Simu, protector of the river, keeper of the hills, mother of the land," he read, "the village of you will send one maiden to the falls before the next full moon, that the serpent may be fed and the land may be blessed." A man shouted, "Our land is already blessed." Another hissed him quiet. The messenger's face did not change. "The queen also sends a warning," the messenger added. "Those who hide a maiden or fight the queen's law will taste the anger of the river itself." Saad squeezed Adura's hand. Jo stood on his toes to see. Adura felt the ground under her feet as if it had become a boat and the boat had started to move. The chief lifted his hand. "We have heard," he said. You obeys the law." He did not look at the messenger when he spoke. He looked at the people, and his eyes were wet. Then a clear voice rose from the edge of the square. "I will not obey a law that eats our daughters," the voice said. Heads turned. Prince Baku stepped forward from the crowd. He did not wear a crown, because he did not like to wear a crown. He wore a simple hunter's cloth and carried a spear that was more for walking than for war. His skin was dark like rich soil. His eyes were steady, the kind that made others steady too. Children liked him because he knelt when they spoke, so he could look them in the eyes and listen. Elders liked him because he did not boast. He learned their names and their stories and remembered both. "Prince Baku," the chief said, "half a warning, half a welcome." The messenger lifted his chin. "The queen's word is the river's word," he said. Baku's voice did not grow loud. It grew firm. "The river's word is not a threat," he said. "It is a blessing. We will not twist it into fear." The messenger's lips thinned. "Careful, Prince." Baku looked at the people, not at the messenger. "Listen," he said. "I went to the edge of the falls before dawn. I heard the river like you did. It told me our fear is a cloak the queen wraps around us. She thinks we will hide inside it forever. But fear is a small cloak for a big people." A murmur passed through the crowd, soft first, then stronger. Grandmother F nodded once, like a drumbeat. The messenger raised the staff with the snake carving. "Do not test the queen," he said. "She was a priestess. She knows the old paths. She knows how to bind." Baku took a single step closer, and the morning light struck his face. "Then we must remember the paths before she bent them," he said. We must remember the songs older than her promises. We must remember the names older than her crown. In the crowd, Adura felt something open inside her chest, like a door she did not know was there. The river sound filled that open place. It sounded like courage and like sorrow. It sounded like her name again, not stretched now, but clear. Adura, the river seemed to say. Adura. She swayed. Saad caught her elbow. Are you all right? Saad whispered. Yes, Adura said, though she was not sure. I am, listening. Grandmother F stepped to Adura's side. Her hand, warm and light, touched Adura's arm. When the river calls a name, she whispered, the name must answer. But the answer can be gentle. It can be slow. The messenger rolled up his palm leaf with a snap. 3 nights from now, he said, the Queen's guards will come to take the maiden's name. Let the village be ready. He slammed the butt of the snake's staff on the ground. The sound shivered through the square like a cold wind. The drum did not speak again. People began to move, but they moved as if their feet had grown heavy. Mothers lifted babies. Boys stopped their jokes. Girls looked at the ground so no one would see the fear in their eyes. The chief sat down slowly, like he carried a load no one could help him carry. Prince Baku walked to the edge of the square, where the river path began. He watched the water until the mist touched his face. I will not let this continue, he said softly, as if to the river, as if to himself. I will not. Adura stood not far from him. She wanted to speak, but her words tangled. She had known Prince Baku since they were small. He had once helped her pull a goat from the mud. He had given her a small wooden pendant carved like a leaf. She wore it now, hidden under her cloth. Once, months ago, his fingers had touched hers a little too long by the yam baskets. She had looked away, smiling at nothing. Prince, she said at last. Baku turned. When he saw her, some of the tightness in his jaw uncaught. Adura, he said. He said her name like a prayer and like a promise. Are you well? I do not know, she said, honest. The river called me. Baku's eyes darkened, not with anger but with worry. Then we must be careful, he said. And we must be brave. Grandmother F came to stand with them. Brave does not mean loud, she said. It means steady, like a tree. It means soft, like water. Water wears away stone not by shouting, but by touching it, again and again. Baku nodded. Then we will be water, he said. Downriver, the waterfall roared like it had roared since the beginning. Behind the white sheet, the cavern breathed. Deep inside that breath, something old shifted, scales against stone, slow and heavy. If the cavern had a heart, it turned over, once. Adura lifted her face to the mist. The river song slipped through her like a thin silver thread. It tied her to the water, to the trees, to the old stories, to the pain in the chief's eyes, to the fire in Prince Baku's voice, to the quiet strength in Grandmother F's hand. The thread was gentle, but it did not break. 3 nights, Adura whispered. 3 nights, Baku said. Grandmother F looked toward the falls. Listen well, she said. The river will speak. And so will the queen. The sun climbed, but the morning did not grow bright. A cloud moved across the sky. The village went back to work, but the work felt different, like walking with a full pot and a stone in your shoe. Still, the yam must be pounded. The fish must be cleaned. The cloth must be washed and spread over bushes to dry. Life does not stop because fear passes by. Life makes fear walk slower. Adura walked the path again, basket on her head, small bundle of white flowers in her hand. At the flat stone by the water she laid the flowers down, for this time, not 3. She did not know why. The petals touched the wet rock and stuck there, shining. Please, she whispered, watch over us. The river lifted and fell like a chest breathing. A little wave climbed the stone and kissed her fingers. It felt like a promise, or an answer she was too young yet to hear. Far away, a drumbeat rolled over the hills, one deep note, and then another. The waterfall roared on. The cavern breathed in, and it breathed out. And somewhere inside the sound, the river spoke a name again, soft and sure. Adura. The palace of Queen Simu rose from a hill of red earth, its walls painted white with lime and marked with long black lines that looked like snakes twisting upward. The roofs were sharp and high, covered with dried grass that rustled in the wind. Carved poles stood at the gates, painted with red and green, their tops shaped like open jaws. People who walked by always lowered their eyes. The palace was not just a house. It was a warning. Inside, the air smelled of smoke and palm oil. Drums were always beating somewhere, slow, heavy beats that sounded like footsteps of giants. The queen liked drums. She said they kept the people's hearts in rhythm with her will. Queen Simu sat on a stool carved from a single block of ebony wood. The stool was in the shape of a coiled snake. She wore a crown made of cowries and gold beads, her hair braided with thin strings of copper. Her eyes were sharp and black, and when she looked at you, it felt as if your secrets jumped out of your chest and into her hands. Her lips were painted dark red, and her fingers wore rings shaped like claws. That night, the queen was not alone. 6 women in dark wrappers sat on the floor around her, their heads shaved, their eyes lined with ash. They were the Witch Council, keepers of the blood oath. A pot of fire burned between them, sending smoke to the roof. The smoke twisted into shapes as it rose, a hand, a crown, a serpent's head. 3 nights, Queen Simu said. Her voice was calm, but her hand trembled on the stool. In 3 nights, the maiden must be taken. If not, the serpent will turn against me. One of the witches, old and bent, licked her lips. We have fed it for many years, she croaked. Why fear this one? Simu's eyes flashed. Because this one is not like the others. This one carries the blood of the old priestesses. The river itself is restless. I hear it in my sleep. Another witch leaned forward, her voice sly. Is it not your own blood that once sang the river awake? You were priestess once, before you bound the serpent. The queen's hand shot out like a whip. She struck the woman across the face with her clawed fingers. Blood welled on the witch's cheek. Do not speak of that, Simu hissed. I turned my back on weakness. My sisters prayed. I ruled. They sang. I commanded. And I will not give that power back. The witches lowered their eyes. The fire crackled. Shadows danced on the walls like snakes fighting. Queen Simu stood and walked to the back of the room. There, behind a curtain of beads, was a small chamber. On the floor lay a circle drawn in white chalk. In the middle of the circle was a clay pot sealed with black wax. Strange carvings covered its sides, spirals, eyes, and fangs. The queen knelt before the pot. Her voice dropped low, almost a whisper. Great serpent, she murmured. Old guardian. Bound by my blood, fed by my hand. Sleep and wait. 3 nights more, and you will drink. 3 nights more, and the land will obey. From inside the pot came a faint sound, a hiss, long and slow. The pot trembled as if something huge breathed within it. The queen's lips curved in a smile, but her eyes did not soften. They only grew darker. She rose and returned to her stool. The witches watched her, but none dared speak. At last, the bent one asked, Who will carry the queen's staff when the guards go to Yuaryu village? I will send Okai, Simu said. He is loyal, and his tongue is sharp. He will bring back the chosen one. But what if the prince stands in the way? Another witch asked. Prince Baku has no crown, but the people love him. His voice is louder than drums. Simu's mouth twisted. Then I will silence him. I have silenced many before. The witches nodded. Their bracelets clinked as they rose to leave. One by one, they bowed low, pressing their foreheads to the floor. When they were gone, Queen Simu sat alone with the fire. The flames burned low, but the shadows still danced. Her hand tightened on her rings until her knuckles went white. For a moment, her eyes softened. She saw herself as she had been long ago, standing by the river with her sisters. She had worn white beads, not gold. She had laughed with them, sung with them. But she remembered too the hunger that had burned in her heart, the hunger not to serve, but to rule. She had chosen power, and she had not regretted it. Until now. She heard again the river's voice in her dreams. It whispered her name, but not as queen. As priestess. As sister. As traitor. Simu rose suddenly and strode to the balcony. The night spread wide before her, the jungle dark and heavy, the river silver under the moon. She raised her hand, and the mist from the waterfall far below seemed to rise higher, as if pulled by her will. "Listen to me," she whispered to the water. "I am your queen. You will not betray me. Not to a child. Not to blood too thin to hold power." But the river's roar answered back, steady and strong, and in the sound was something she could not control. It was laughter. Soft, distant laughter, like the voices of the sisters she had betrayed. Her hand dropped. Her crown felt heavy. For the first time in many years, Queen Simu felt a seed of fear take root in her chest. She crushed it quickly, but its root dug deep. The next morning, she dressed in bright green cloth lined with gold. Her servants poured palm oil on her arms until they glistened. She walked to the throne hall, where guards and messengers knelt. Her face was calm, her voice firm. "The maiden will be taken from you in 3 nights, she said. "Tell the people. Let them remember that their lives are tied to the serpent's hunger. And let them remember that the queen's word is law." The guards struck their spears on the ground in unison. "Yes, my queen." Simu sat back, her eyes cold, her smile sharp. But in the secret places of her mind, the river's laughter still whispered. And in her dreams, the serpent no longer lay in chains. It stirred, restless, as if waiting for another voice. Morning grew wide and clear. The sun sat like a golden calabash above the trees. The river shone and moved, bright and strong, as if it carried a secret on its back. Birds hopped along the rocks. A small lizard froze and then ran, its tiny feet a blur. Far away, the waterfall threw a white curtain over the cliff and filled the air with soft mist. Adura walked down to the shallow bend where the water made a gentle pool. It was a place people used for washing and for quiet talks. She wore a simple blue wrapper with a thin rope at her waist. Her hair was in neat braids, tied with a brown strip of cloth. She carried a little gourd for water in the small basket that held her wooden pendant when she did not wear it. She sat on a flat rock and dipped her toes into the pool. The water was cool. It slid around her ankles like silk. She breathed in the wet smell of leaves and stone. She felt calmer here, though the drum from the village square still beat inside her chest like a slow hand. "Adura," a voice said behind her, gentle and steady. "May I sit?" She turned and smiled without thinking. "Prince Baku," she said. "You do not need to ask. This rock is big enough for 2. Baku sat down a little space away, so their shoulders did not touch. He carried no spear this morning, only a small knife at his belt and a cloth bag. His eyes were soft, not like eyes made for war, but like eyes made for listening. He put the bag on the rock between them. "I brought something," he said. He opened the bag and pulled out roasted plantain wrapped in leaves and a small calabash of groundnut sauce. "My mother made this early. She said I must eat before my words start running everywhere." Adura laughed. "Your words do like to run," she said. "But they run in the right direction." "I hope so," Baku said. He tore a piece of plantain, dipped it, and handed it to her. She took it and chewed. The sweet taste filled her mouth and took the sharp edge off her fear. They ate in easy silence for a while, taking turns with the food, watching the river push soft waves against a fallen log. Baku wiped his fingers and looked at her. "Adura," he said, "the messenger will return in 2 days. He will expect us to be quiet. He will expect us to bow and to cry and to point at any girl who looks weak. I will not give him that. I will not give the queen that." Adura stared at the moving water. "What can we do?" she asked. "She has guards. She has the witch council. People are afraid. People are brave, too, Baku said. They have just been afraid for a long time. Fear makes the back bend. But when the back remembers how to stand, fear becomes smaller. Adura looked at her feet in the water. A tiny fish came and nibbled her toe and then darted away. Yesterday, when the drum called us to the square, she said, the river called my name. I did not ask for it. I did not want it. But it called. Baku's jaw tightened. Grandmother F told me, he said. She said the river calls those whose blood remembers. She said your blood is old blood. River blood. Priestess blood. Adura touched the small wooden pendant at her neck. It was shaped like a leaf, smooth from many rubs. I am no priestess, she said. I grind yam and carry water. I laugh with sod. I wash my mother's cloth. I am just Adura. Baku turned his body so he could see her better. You are Adura, he said softly. That already means more than you think. You are kind without showing it off. You listen without telling people to be quiet. You walk like a song. If the river chose you, it chose well. Adura felt heat rise in her cheeks. She looked down again, then up too quickly, then away, because looking at Baku's eyes was like looking at the sun longer than she should. The queen will take a maiden, she whispered. If it is not me, it will be someone else. If it is me, my mother will break. My father will break. Sod will break. If it is someone else, their mother will break. All our hearts are bowls, and the queen throws stones. Baku took a slow breath. I do not want you to be taken, he said. I do not want any girl to be taken. I have a plan. It is not fully strong yet, like a small yam plant. But if we tend it, it can grow. He opened the cloth bag again and pulled out a folded palm leaf. Inside, there was a charcoal drawing. Adura leaned closer. The drawing showed the waterfall from the side, the big rock that jutted near the middle, and a narrow ledge behind the white sheet of water, the secret path some hunters talked about but few had tried. The drawing also showed a small mark behind the ledge, a mouth-like hole. I went to the falls before sunrise, Baku said. I watched the mist. I watched the birds. I saw how the water falls soft at the edges and hard in the middle. Behind the soft side is a ledge. Behind the ledge is a small tunnel. If we can reach that tunnel, we may enter the cavern from behind. We may not need to use the front where the guards stand. Adura traced the lines with her finger. And if the serpent is there, she asked, her voice tiny. If the serpent is there, Baku said, we do not run at it like fools. We look. We listen. We learn. Grandmother F says the serpent's eyes tell you who you are. If it looks at you and bows, we will know what the river wants. If it does not, we will still be together. We will still be two people with a plan, not one person walking into a mouth. Adura swallowed. The water's song seemed to grow louder. You would come with me. I would go farther than that, Baku said, almost smiling. I would carry you. I would fight. I would shout. I would be silent if silence is stronger. I will do what the river asks of me. But I will not leave you to walk alone. A tear slid down Adura's cheek. She wiped it with the back of her hand and tried to laugh. I do not like to cry by the water, she said. I feel like the river is watching me and making a joke. The river does not joke about tears, Baku said. He turned, picked up the small gourd of water, and poured a little into his palm. He sprinkled a few drops into the pool. For the ones who have gone, he said. For the ones we will save. They sat in silence for a while. A frog croaked and then jumped with a splash that made them both smile without looking at each other. Teach me, Adura said at last. Teach you what? Baku asked. Teach me how to move if we go to the falls at night, she said. Teach me how to step on wet rock. Teach me how to breathe quietly. Teach me where to put my hands if I must climb. Teach me how not to freeze when I am afraid. Baku nodded. He stood and offered his hand. She took it and let him pull her up. His hand was warm and dry. He did not let go too fast or hold on too long. He led her to the line of stones that crossed the shallow part of the river like a broken necklace. First, he said, stepping onto the first stone, you look at the stone, not the water. The water moves and will make your mind move. The stone is still. Stillness is a friend. He stepped to the next stone. Second, you place the middle of your foot on the highest part of the stone. Wet sides are lies. Dry tops tell the truth. Adura followed, copying him. She wobbled once. He did not grab her. He only opened his hands in case she fell. She did not fall. Third, Baku said, you breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Mouth breathing is for runners. Nose breathing is for listeners. They went back and forth across the stones. Adura's steps grew sure. The water slapped the rocks, but she did not look at it, she looked only at the next dry spot. When she missed, she laughed and tried again. When she made a smooth run, Baku clapped quietly. Good, he said. Very good. Now we try the wet rock by the pool. They walked to a place where the river ran thin over a wide flat rock. Algae made a green skin on it. Baku knelt and touched it. Here, he said. Walk with your feet like they are hands. Feel before you put your weight. Your toes are eyes. Let them look. Adura laughed at the words, but when she tried, the meaning was clear. She moved slow, nearly on tiptoe, placing one foot and then the other. She felt the little ridges with her toes and used those like tiny steps. She slid once and caught herself with her hands. The river kissed her fingers and let her go. You are a fast learner, Baku said. Maybe the river taught you before I came. Maybe, Adura said, smiling. Or maybe you are a good teacher. He bowed his head a bit, pleased. They trained until the sun grew high and the shade moved away from the stones. When they were tired, they returned to the flat rock and sat again. Baku opened his cloth bag and took out 2 dried dates. He handed one to Adura. When the queen sends her guards, he said, they will come with the snake staff. They will beat the ground and count 3 times, and then they will shout the chosen name. The first shout is the queen's will. The second shout is fear. The third shout is a lie. Adura frowned. A lie? Yes, Baku said. Because the queen says the serpent must eat to bless the land. But the land was blessed before she took power. The river flowed before she bound it. The serpent guarded before she fed it maidens. The third shout says the land cannot live without the queen's hunger. That is the lie. Adura held the date between finger and thumb, feeling its wrinkled skin. What will we do when they shout? We will not be in the square, Baku said. We will be here, at the river bend, before sunrise on the day they return. We will move like the heron, slow, quiet. We will go to the falls first, not last. We will learn the ledge, the tunnel. We will listen to the cavern's breath. If the serpent waits, it will not be fooled by noise. It will know you. If the river wants you to speak, you will sing. If not, we will leave footprints that water can swallow. Adura looked at him, surprised. You plan to go before the guards come? Yes, Baku said. If we arrive after, the guards will fill the front path like beans in a pot. If we go before, we travel with the morning mist. Mist hides brave people. Adura breathed slowly. The idea scared her, but it scared her in a clean way, like looking down from a tall rock and knowing she could climb. Then we must tell no one, she said. Not even Saad. If Saad knows, the whole village knows. Baku laughed. You speak the truth, he said. We tell only Grandmother F. She will not stop us. She will show us the old hand signs to call and to answer, in case we cannot speak in the cavern. She will also give us a small gourd of bitter leaf juice. If smoke comes, we will wet cloths with it to cover our mouths. If our feet shake, we will take a sip. Bitter things wake the heart. Adura nodded, feeling the small training bloom inside her like a flower. She reached for the pendant at her neck and held it out to Baku. "Will you tie this tighter?" she asked. "I do not want to lose it if I must run." Baku took the pendant with careful fingers, as if it were a bird. He tied the cord with a quiet knot. His hands brushed her neck. The touch made a little spark jump from skin to skin, a warm spark that said more than words. He looked down while he tied, and when he finished, he let the pendant settle against her chest. "There," he said. His voice was low. "Thank you," Adura said. Her voice was low too. A shadow crossed the water. They both looked up. Grandmother F stood at the path's bend, leaning on her stick carved like a bird. She had a cloth bag at her side and a calm in her face that looked like shade on a hot day. "You move well, my river leaves," she said. "I watched you from the palm tree and saw no fall. This is good." "You were watching?" Baku asked, half shy, half proud. "I watch more than I walk," Grandmother F said. "When legs are old, eyes must be young." She came closer and sat on the rock with a soft sigh. "I knew I would find you both here. The river carries your names to my ears." Adura reached for the old woman's hand. "Grandmother," she said, "we plan to go to the falls at dawn on the second day. We will look for a ledge and a tunnel. We will go before the guards come." Grandmother F nodded as if she had already known. "This is the good time," she said. "The serpent sleeps light before dawn. The cavern breathes out then. When it breathes out, you can step in more easily. When it breathes in, you must be still like a lizard on warm stone." Baku leaned forward. "Teach us the hand signs," he said. "And give us the bitter leaf." F opened her bag and took out a small gourd wrapped with palm fiber. She also brought 2 strips of thin cloth and a little pot of chalk. "The signs are simple," she said. She drew on the rock with chalk, a short line for "come," a hooked line for "stop," a circle for "wait," and an arrow for "follow." She showed them how to make each sign quickly with a finger in dust or with a small stick on damp stone. Then she taught them a soft bird sound, tick-tick, to call without humans hearing. "Do not shout inside the cavern," she said. "Everything you say will say itself again in echo, and the serpent listens to echoes as if they are new voices. Speak only when needed. Let your feet be your words." She passed the gourd to Baku. "1 sip only," she said. "Bitter leaf can make the stomach argue if you swallow too much. And tie these cloths around your noses and mouths if smoke comes. The queen likes fire. Fire likes breath. Do not let it eat yours." Adura tied the cloth around her wrist. She felt stronger with it there, like wearing a promise. Grandmother F's eyes softened. "Adura," she said. "When the river called your name, did it call you like a friend or like a drum?" Adura thought. "Like a friend who was far away," she said. "Like a friend who wanted to come closer." "Good," F said. "Then when you reach the falls, touch the water with your right hand and say only this, 'I am here.' Do not say more. The river knows the rest. Let it say your name if it wants." Baku looked toward the white veil of the falls. "We will go before dawn," he said again, more to himself than to anyone. "We will be missed." Grandmother F pushed herself up with her stick. "Before dawn," she agreed. "Tonight, sleep near each other's thoughts. Do not speak of this to anyone else. If fear comes, let it sit beside you like a quiet guest. Give it water. Do not let it drive your feet." Adura stood and hugged the old woman lightly. F smelled of wood smoke and shea butter. "Thank you," Adura whispered. "Thank the river," F said. "I am only a small cup. The river is the calabash." The old woman walked away, slow but sure. A breeze passed over the water and made the surface ripple as if the river had shivered. Baku and Adura sat again, shoulder to shoulder this time, though still not touching. The sun had climbed high. The light on the pool flashed like tiny knives and tiny mirrors. The frog croaked again and then fell silent. Before dawn, Baku said softly. Before dawn, Adura echoed. She looked at her toes in the water, at the pendant on her chest, at the chalk marks on the rock that said come, stop, wait, and follow. She looked at Baku's hands, strong and calm, resting on his knees. She looked at the thin white line of the falls between the trees. Fear sat beside her like a quiet guest, just as F had said. It drank a little water and behaved. The river hummed. It did not speak her name this time. It sang a low, even note, like a drum hidden under leaves. Adura closed her eyes and listened. The sound spread through her chest and back and into her fingers and toes. It felt like the start of a long walk on a good path. When she opened her eyes, Baku was looking at her. He did not ask what she had heard. He only nodded, as if he had heard it too. They rose. They walked back to the village together, not too close, not too far, their steps keeping the same slow beat. Children ran past them with sticks and strings, and goats bleated as if they were telling secrets to each other. Women pounded yam. Men cleaned nets. Life moved. But under the sound of work, the river's note stayed. That night, Adura laid out her wrapper and set her pendant where she could touch it in the dark. She placed the strip of cloth for smoke over the bed mat, and the small chalk pot under it. She braided her hair back, tight and neat, so it would not catch on rock. She drank a little water and sat quiet. Her mother came and stroked her arm. "Are you well, child?" she asked. "I am here," Adura said, using the words Grandmother F had given her. "I am here." Her mother looked into her face a long moment, as if she could read a whole story there, and then kissed her forehead. "Sleep, then," she said. "Tomorrow will need your strength." Across the village, Baku sat by a small lamp and sharpened a little knife. He did not plan to use it. He did not want to use it. But he cleaned it and wrapped it in cloth. He tied the gourd of bitter leaf to his belt and set the chalk marks in his mind. He blew out the lamp and lay on his mat and let the river's low note rock him like a baby. The moon climbed high. The waterfall sang. The cavern breathed out, then in, then out again. And in the space between one breath and the next, the jungle went very still, as if it too listened for what would come before dawn. The moon hid behind clouds that night, and the stars looked like small watchful eyes. In You village, sleep was thin. Women tossed and turned. Men stared at the roofs of their huts. Dogs barked at shadows and then whimpered, curling close to fires. When dawn came, it came heavy. A mist rolled low over the ground, soft as cotton but cold as river stone. The talking drum began to sound before the sun climbed. 1 beat. 2 beats. 3. Slow, deep, each one like a hand pressing down on the chest of every villager. Adura woke at the first beat. Her heart had already been waiting. She rose from her mat and washed her face with cool water from the calabash. Her mother braided her hair tighter, her fingers moving fast and rough. "Be still," her mother whispered, though her own voice trembled. "Do not give them reason to look at you." Adura held her pendant in her hand. She rubbed its smooth wood until her thumb grew warm. She whispered the words Grandmother F had taught her, "I am here." Outside, voices were low. Neighbors greeted each other, but no one smiled. The children were pulled close to their mothers' skirts. Men carried no tools, only empty hands. The drum kept beating, and every beat was a step toward the square. Prince Baku walked from his hut near the edge of the village. He carried no spear. His wrapper was plain. His eyes were steady, but his lips pressed tight. He looked at the people filing toward the square and thought, "Fear walks with them. Fear eats before they eat. Today, I must not let fear eat alone." In the square, the chief sat on his stool, his hands folded, his face a mask of sorrow. Beside him stood the messenger again, Okai, with the queen's snake staff. The carved serpent's head glistened in the mist. The villagers gathered, forming a wide circle. When the drum stopped, silence dropped like a stone in water. Okai raised the staff high. His voice rang out, "People of you are you. Queen Simu, mother of the river, keeper of the land, sends her will. One maiden must be chosen for sacrifice. One maiden must walk into the cavern beneath the silver falls, so the serpent may feed, so the land may prosper. The crowd groaned softly, like the wind through dry leaves. Mothers held daughters tighter. Boys lowered their heads. Okai struck the staff on the ground. 3 days from now, he said, the chosen maiden will be taken. If you hide her, if you resist, the river's anger will drown you all. A heavy silence spread. It was broken by a voice, strong but calm. Must we feed our children to keep the land alive? The villagers turned. Prince Baku stood in the circle. His chin was high, his voice steady. The river flowed before the queen's throne. The serpent guarded before the queen's crown. We give and give, but our daughters do not return. Who truly prospers? Okai's eyes narrowed. Careful, prince. To speak against the queen is to speak against the serpent itself. Baku stepped forward. I speak for the river, not against it. The river does not drink our daughters. It gives us fish. It gives us water. It carries songs. It does not carry death unless we put it there. The villagers stirred. Some nodded. Others whispered in fear. The chief's face grew tighter, but he did not silence Baku. Adura stood near the back, Sod clutching her arm. She felt her heart beating fast, but when Baku spoke, the river's low note filled her again. It steadied her feet. Okai slammed the staff again. The queen's law is the river's law. No, Baku said firmly. The queen's hunger is not the river's hunger. If a maiden must walk into the cavern, then let me walk first. Let the serpent see if my blood is enough. Gasps burst through the crowd. Some clapped hands to mouths. Some shook their heads wildly. Adura felt her chest tighten. She wanted to shout no. Not you. But her voice locked in her throat. Okai sneered. You are brave, prince. Brave, but foolish. The serpent does not want a man's blood. It wants the soft, sacred blood of maidens. That is the bond the queen gave it. His words fell heavy. But then Grandmother F stepped into the circle. She leaned on her bird-carved stick, her back bent but her eyes sharp. Okai, she said, her voice dry as old wood, your tongue is long, but your memory is short. I was alive before the queen's crown. I was alive when the serpent guarded, not devoured. You speak of bonds, but I speak of truth. The river does not call for blood. The queen calls for it. Do not confuse the two. A ripple ran through the crowd. Mothers nodded. Fathers clenched their fists. Even the children looked at the old woman with wide eyes. Okai's face darkened. He lifted the staff as if to strike her, but Prince Baku stepped between them. Strike her, Baku said quietly, and you strike the truth itself. The messenger lowered the staff, but his eyes glittered with hate. He turned back to the chief. 3 days, he said. 1 maiden. If you do not send her, the queen will send her wrath. He spun on his heel and marched away, his guards following like shadows. When he was gone, the villagers stood in silence. The chief's voice broke the stillness. Go to your homes, he said. Prepare your hearts. May the river have mercy. The crowd scattered, heavy-footed. But whispers flew, whispers of Baku's courage, whispers of F's words, whispers of Adura's name, though no one spoke it loud. Adura walked quickly, Sod still holding her arm. He is too bold, Sod whispered, her eyes wide. He will anger the queen. Adura shook her head. He speaks what is true, she said softly. But inside, her fear grew, not for herself, but for Baku. Later, as the sun began to fall, Adura went again to the river bend. She placed her hands in the water. Please, she whispered, do not take him. Take me if you must, but not him. The water rose gently and kissed her fingers. It whispered her name again. Adura. And in the distance, beyond the mist of the falls, the cavern breathed in. It breathed out. And something deep inside it stirred. The jungle was heavy that night. The crickets cried, the frogs sang, and the air smelled of wet bark and smoke. But Prince Baku did not hear the frogs. He did not see the fireflies that blinked like tiny stars in the leaves. His mind was full of the queen's staff, the hiss of the serpent carved upon it, and the way the people's fear bent their backs like heavy loads. He walked alone, past the yam fields, past the river's curve, until the path grew narrow and wild. Few went that way anymore. The elders whispered that the path led to ruins older than the queen's throne, older than the village itself. Baku's heart told him that answers hid there. The moon guided him through the trees. At last, he came to a clearing. Broken stones lay half buried in grass. Some were carved with faint lines, circles, waves, snakes, eyes. Creepers wrapped around them like chains. At the center stood a tall pillar split down the middle, as if struck by lightning long ago. Baku stepped forward and touched the stone. It was cool. His hand trembled. "River, show me what I must see," he whispered. The wind shifted. The leaves rustled. From the shadows came a sound of soft feet. An old man walked slowly into the clearing. His back was bent, and his beard hung long and white. He leaned on a crooked staff. His eyes shone in the moonlight like deep pools. "Prince Baku," the old man said, his voice low but clear. "You walk where others fear to walk." Baku bowed his head. "Who are you, elder?" The man smiled faintly. "Names are many. Some call me Olam. Some call me Keeper of Ruins. Some call me Mad. I call myself Listener. I listen to what the stones say." Baku looked at the broken pillar. "Then tell me what these stones say. Tell me why the queen feeds our maidens to the serpent. Tell me how to stop her." Olam's eyes grew narrow. He tapped his staff on the ground. "The queen was once like me. She listened. She sang. She called herself Sister of the River. But hunger grew in her. She wanted more than songs. She wanted power that did not belong to her. So she bound the serpent with her blood and promised it maidens. That is her strength, and her curse." Baku's fists tightened. "And the serpent obeys her?" "Not fully," Olam said. "Chains of blood are strong, but not eternal. They tremble when true blood returns." "True blood?" Baku asked. The old man's eyes gleamed. "You love a maiden named Adura, do you not?" Baku's chest tightened. "How do you know her name?" Olam smiled without humor. "The stones remember. The river remembers. Adura is not just a maiden. She is blood of the old priestesses, the sisters the queen betrayed. Her veins carry the songs that once kept the serpent pure. That is why the river calls her name. That is why the queen trembles when she hears it." Baku felt the air grow colder. "Adura is meant for sacrifice. The queen will choose her. I cannot let that happen." "You are right," Olam said softly. "The queen fears her because Adura is the key. If her blood is spilled by the queen's will, the serpent will drink and remain bound. But if her blood awakens freely, by her own voice, the serpent will bow again to its true mistress. She can break the curse." Baku's breath caught. "Then Adura is not meant to die. She is meant to rise." "Perhaps," Olam said. "But rising has its price. The river does not give without taking. The one who awakens the serpent cannot walk away unchanged. Adura may live, but not as she is now. She will belong to the river forever." Baku's heart twisted. He saw her face in his mind, her smile when she teased him, her soft eyes when she listened. "No," he said. "There must be another way." The old man sighed. "Love is strong, Prince. But love does not bend the river's flow. It can only swim within it." Baku dropped his gaze. His hands trembled at his sides. Then he lifted his head again, steady now. "If the river has chosen Adura, then I will walk beside her. I will not let her carry this alone. Even if the river takes her, I will fight to bring her back." Olam tapped his staff again. Brave words. But bravery alone does not break curses. You must know the old songs. You must know the signs. Without them, your love is a boat without a paddle. "Teach me," Baku said firmly. "Teach me what I must know." The old man studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Very well. Come." He led Baku to the broken pillar. He traced a line on the stone with his finger. The line glowed faintly, like silver under the moon. "This is the mark of the serpent unbound. When you see it in the cavern, you must touch it. It will answer you." He lifted his staff and drew shapes in the dirt, a circle with 3 lines, a wave, a spiral. These are the songs of awakening. Adura must sing them, not you. Her blood carries the power. But your voice may guide hers when fear clouds her. Baku memorized the shapes, burning them into his mind. Olam's eyes grew heavy. "Remember this, Prince, love may weaken the queen's spell, but only Adura can break it. When the moment comes, you must be willing to give all. Even your blood." Baku's throat tightened. He nodded once. "If that is the price, I will pay it." The old man smiled faintly. "Then the river has chosen well." The wind shifted again. The old man's form shimmered like mist. And then, as suddenly as he had come, he was gone. The clearing was silent, the stones cold once more. Baku stood alone, but his heart was no longer uncertain. He turned back toward the village, the moon lighting his path. His steps were steady, though heavy. He carried a truth too large for one man, but he carried it anyway. As he neared the village, the sound of the river grew louder. And in that sound, he thought he heard Adura's name again. Not as fear. Not as sorrow. But as destiny. The sun rose soft that morning, but in URU village it felt heavy. Smoke from cooking fires drifted slow, as if it too carried sorrow. Mothers moved like shadows. Fathers spoke little. Even the goat seemed quiet. Adura sat by the doorway of her family's hut, weaving palm strands into a mat. Her fingers moved, but her heart was far away. Every beat of the drum in her memory pressed down like a stone. She knew what the people whispered. She knew her name was already on their tongues. Her mother, Nao, came and sat beside her. Nao's eyes were red, her face thin from nights without sleep. She touched Adura's braids, smoothing them with trembling hands. "My child," Nao whispered, "I dreamed last night. I saw you standing at the river. The water rose around you but did not drown you. It lifted you high. I reached for you, but my hand could not touch. Tell me, what does this mean?" Adura's throat tightened. "Mama, dreams are only dreams." "No," Nao said quickly, clutching her arm. "Dreams are seeds. They grow into trees. Tell me, what do you feel in your heart?" Adura looked at her mother's hand, brown and strong but shaking. She wanted to say she felt safe, that nothing would happen, that the queen would change her mind. But the river's voice was still in her chest, whispering her name. She could not lie. "I feel," Adura said slowly, "that the river is calling me. But I do not know if it calls me to live or to die." Her mother pulled her close and wept into her shoulder. Adura held her, rocking slightly, her own tears sliding silently down her face. Her father, Ade, entered then. He was a tall man, his back strong from years of farming. But today his shoulders sagged. He carried his hoe in one hand, not because he meant to work, but because it was his habit to carry something heavy. He set it aside and sat across from them. "My daughter," Ade said, his voice deep but cracked. "When you were born, the midwife placed you in my arms, and I said, 'She is as bright as morning water.' I named you Adura because prayers wrapped around you. All my prayers have been for you. And now the queen takes what she did not plant." Adura's eyes stung. "Baba, do not speak like it is already done." He shook his head slowly. "The queen's word is a chain. It has dragged many daughters away. How can I say otherwise? Chains can break, Adura said softly, remembering Baku's promise and grandmother F's words. Even the strongest chains. Her father studied her face. You speak with courage. Too much courage for one so young. Who has been filling your head with such talk? Adura looked down. The river, she whispered. Her father's lips tightened. He looked away, his hands curling into fists. Then may the river carry you safe, my child. Because I cannot fight the queen's guards alone. The silence between them was heavy. It was broken only when her younger brother, Kale, came running in. He was only 10, with thin legs and bright eyes. He clutched a small clay toy shaped like a bird. Adura, he said breathlessly, don't go. Hide in the yam barn. Hide in the forest. I will bring you food. I will tell no one. Adura knelt and pulled him into her arms. His small body shook. She kissed his hair. Kale, she said gently, I cannot hide forever. The queen's eyes are many. But listen to me, you must be strong for Mama. For Baba. You must grow tall and wise. One day you will tell my story. You will tell it to children who are not yet born. Kale began to cry, the sound high and broken. I don't want a story. I want my sister. Her own tears fell hot on his cheek. And I will always be your sister. Even if the river carries me far, I will be near in its song. When you fetch water, you will hear me. When you wash your face, you will feel me. Her mother wept again. Her father turned his head, but his chest rose and fell with deep, uneven breaths. Later that day, Adura walked down to the bend of the river with her family. They carried calabashes of food, cloths, and flowers. Other families walked too, each bringing offerings for the river to bless their homes. But today, the offerings were heavy with sorrow. They reached the flat stone where Adura often prayed. She laid white flowers on it, the petals trembling in the breeze. Her mother poured palm wine into the water. Her father placed smoked fish. Kale set his little clay bird on the stone and whispered, for my sister. Adura knelt and placed her hands in the water. She closed her eyes. The river hummed again, deep and low, like a drum. Then the whisper came, Adura. Her family watched her. What is it saying? Neo asked softly. Adura opened her eyes slowly. It says my name. Only my name. Her father's voice was harsh with pain. Then the river has chosen. And the queen will take what is not hers. No, Adura said firmly, surprising even herself. The queen may take my body. But my blood belongs to the river, not to her. If the river wants me, it will have me. But not for her hunger. Her words hung in the air. Her mother touched her cheek, her eyes wide. Adura, she whispered, you speak like a priestess. Adura looked at the rushing water. She did not feel like a priestess. She felt like a girl who was afraid, who loved her family, who wanted to live. But deep in her chest, the river's note steadied her. That night, as the family prepared supper, Adura sat outside again, watching the stars. She heard soft footsteps. Prince Baku stepped from the shadows. He carried no light, only the moon on his shoulders. Adura, he said, his voice quiet. I went to the old ruins. I learned the truth. You are of the priestesses. The queen fears you because you can break her spell. Her breath caught. Me. I am just a girl. You are more, Baku said. The river calls your name. That is not for nothing. It is for destiny. She shook her head. If I break her spell, will I be free? Baku's eyes dropped. The river does not give without taking. If you awaken the serpent, you will belong to it. To the river. You will not walk away as before. Her chest tightened. So I must choose between dying in the queen's cavern or living as something I do not know. His hand brushed hers. His voice was low and steady. You will not choose alone. I will be beside you. Even if my blood must fall. Even if my life must end. I will not leave you. Her eyes filled again, but this time her tears burned like fire instead of breaking her. Then I will not run, she said. I will not hide. I will face the river. He nodded. Before dawn, we go to the falls. We go together. The moon hung full over the royal palace, its silver light slipping across the walls painted with coiled snakes. The air was heavy with the smell of burning herbs. Torches flickered, their flames bending in the night breeze. From the high balcony, Queen Simu looked down over her kingdom. She stood tall, her green wrapper embroidered with golden threads glimmering like scales, her crown of cowries and copper shining under the moon. To the people, she was strength. To herself, she was a woman haunted. Behind her, the witch council sat in a circle on woven mats, heads shaved and eyes lined with ash. A clay pot of fire burned in the center, its smoke twisting into thin shapes that writhed like snakes before fading into the dark. The queen turned slowly, her sharp eyes scanning each of them. The river grows restless, she said, her voice firm, though her hand trembled slightly on the arm of her stool. The serpent stirs too soon. Tell me why. The bent witch, oldest of them all, raised her chin. It is the maiden, my queen. Her blood is not like the others. It carries the memory of the old priestesses. The serpent smells it. The river sings it. It cannot be hidden. Simu's jaw tightened. I killed my sisters long ago. Their blood sank into the river and vanished. How can their seed live on? Another witch leaned forward, her bracelets clinking. Blood does not die. It flows like the river itself. It runs in new streams. And now it has reached this girl, Adura. The queen hissed the name like it was a thorn in her mouth. Adura, she repeated, her teeth clenched. The river whispers her name even in my sleep. I hear it louder than my own. The witches exchanged glances but said nothing. Simu stood and walked to the back chamber. The bead curtain rattled as she pushed through. There lay the sealed clay pot covered in black wax, carved with symbols of eyes and fangs. She knelt before it. My serpent, she whispered, her voice low and sharp, you are mine. I bound you with my blood. I feed you, and you guard me. You will not betray me now. The pot trembled. A hiss rose from inside, long and slow, filling the chamber with a sound like water boiling deep underground. Simu's hand hovered over the seal. For a moment, fear crawled up her spine. It sounded not like obedience, but like hunger that had grown impatient. She pulled her hand back quickly. 3 nights, she whispered. In 3 nights, I will give you the maiden. You will drink her blood. You will forget the old songs. You will remain mine. When she rose and returned to the witches, her face was composed again, though her heartbeat pounded against her ribs. She sat on her stool. Okai will fetch the maiden, she said. The serpent will eat, and the people will bow. But we must prepare. The prince speaks too boldly. His tongue sows courage. Courage is poison. The youngest witch leaned forward. Shall we silence him, my queen? Simu's lips curved into a cruel smile. Not yet. A prince's death makes noise. Noise wakes rebellion. No, we will break him another way. Let him watch the girl he loves swallowed whole. That will silence his voice more than any blade. The witches cackled softly, their voices hissing like dry grass in fire. But the bent witch stayed quiet, her old eyes fixed on the queen. Be careful, Simu, she said finally. If the serpent bows to the girl instead of eating her, your crown will turn to dust. The queen's smile vanished. Her hand tightened on the arm of her stool until her rings cut into her skin. Then it must not bow, she said through clenched teeth. It must not. That night, Queen Simu lay in her chamber. Her servants had spread soft cloths for her and lit lamps of perfumed oil. But she did not sleep. She tossed, her eyes staring at the ceiling painted with blue waves. When her eyes closed, she saw her sisters again, clad in white beads, their voices rising in river songs. She saw herself among them, younger, with laughter on her lips. And she saw herself betraying them, cutting her palm, letting blood fall into the cavern. In her dream, the serpent rose from the water, its scales glistening gold and black. Its eyes were bright, unblinking. She expected it to bow as it always did. But instead, it turned its head away and lowered it to a girl with long braids and clay-brown skin. "Adura," the serpent hissed. "Adura." Queen Simu woke with a scream. Sweat soaked her wrapper. The lamps flickered wildly. She sat upright, gasping, her hands clutching the bed mat. For the first time in many years, she felt powerless. She rose and went again to the balcony. The jungle stretched wide, the waterfall roaring faintly in the distance. Mist drifted up, silver in the moonlight. Her hands shook. She pressed them against the cold railing. "The river cannot take what is mine," she whispered. "I gave blood. I gave chains. I am queen." But the waterfall roared on, steady, unbroken. It did not bow to her words. For the first time since binding the serpent, Queen Simu felt truly afraid, not of the river, not of the serpent, but of the girl whose blood carried the songs she had tried to silence. The day of summons came with thick clouds. The sun hid, and the air pressed heavy on the skin. Drums pounded through Uru village, not the soft drums of weddings, not the fast drums of festivals, but the slow, hard beat of command. Each thud shook the ground like a giant step. The queen's guards arrived in a line of iron and leather. Their bodies were painted in black streaks, their heads wrapped in green cloths. Each carried a short spear and a shield with the serpent carved across it. At their front marched Okai, the queen's messenger, with the snake staff in his hand. Its carved head glistened with oil, its mouth open as if to hiss. Villagers crowded the square. No one laughed. No one whispered. Mothers pulled daughters close, their fingers digging into arms as if holding too tight might keep them safe. Fathers stood stiff, eyes lowered, hands curled into fists they dared not raise. Okai struck the staff once, twice, thrice against the ground. The sound was sharp, like bone cracking. He raised his chin and spoke. "By order of Queen Simu," he said, his voice ringing through the square, "one maiden must walk into the cavern beneath the silver falls. One maiden must feed the serpent, so that the land may prosper. Today, Uru gives its chosen." A shiver ran through the crowd. Eyes slid sideways. Whispers fluttered like weak wings. And then, like a knife, Okai's voice cut the silence. "Adura." The name fell heavy. The crowd gasped. Neo cried out, clutching her daughter. Ade stepped forward as if to shield her, but two guards raised spears. Adura's heart pounded. The river's voice echoed in her chest, "Adura." She stood still, though her knees trembled. Okai's eyes found her. He smiled thinly. "Come," he said. "The serpent waits." Her mother clung to her. "No. You cannot take her." Okai's gaze hardened. "Defy the queen, and all of you will pay." Ade held his wife's arms, pulling her back though his own face was twisted with grief. "Let her go," he whispered hoarsely. "If we fight, they will kill us all." Adura stepped forward, her pendant heavy against her chest. She raised her chin, though tears stung her eyes. "I will go," she said softly. The guards surrounded her. Okai turned, the snake staff tapping the ground in rhythm with his steps. The line of spears moved through the village, and behind them, Adura walked barefoot on the dusty path. The villagers watched in silence, their sorrow heavy. Some wept quietly. Some bowed their heads. Others lifted their eyes to the river, as if asking it for mercy. Among the crowd, Grandmother F gripped her bird-carved stick. Her old eyes followed Adura until the jungle swallowed her. Then she whispered, "The river does not take without giving." Prince Baku was not in the square. At dawn, before the guards arrived, he had slipped away. He walked the hidden path through the forest, his body moving like shadow, his breath steady. On his back he carried a gourd of bitter leaf juice and chalk wrapped in cloth. At his side was a short blade. In his heart was fire. As the guards marched Adura deeper into the jungle, Baku watched from the trees. His eyes never left her, though he dared not speak. He saw the way she walked, afraid, yes, but steady. Like water flowing where it must. The jungle thickened around them. The drums grew faint behind. The cries of birds fell silent. Even the insects hushed, as if the trees themselves knew where the path led. At last, the sound of rushing water grew loud. The roar of the silver waterfall filled the air. Mist rose in clouds, dampening the guards' spears and cloaks. They pushed through tall grass and stepped onto the wide rocks that faced the falls. The cavern's mouth yawned behind the white curtain of water. The air that blew from it was cool, smelling of stone and something older, something heavy. The villagers said it was the serpent's breath. Okai raised the staff. "Here," he said. "Here she will wait." The guards formed a circle around Adura. Okai stood tall, his eyes sharp. "3 nights the serpent has hungered," he said. "Tonight, it will drink. The queen's power will remain strong." Adura lifted her chin. Her voice trembled, but her words were steady. "The queen's power is not the river's power." Okai sneered. "The river serves the queen." Adura touched her pendant. "The river serves no one." The guards muttered uneasily. Some shifted their feet. Okai's face darkened, but before he could strike, the waterfall roared louder, sending a spray of mist across them. The ground trembled faintly. Inside the trees, Baku crouched low, his eyes wide. The serpent was waking. The cavern's breath grew stronger, pulling and pushing the mist. He clutched the chalk in his hand, remembering Olam's words, "When you see the mark, touch it. When you hear her voice, guide it." Adura's eyes fixed on the white veil of water. Her fear was heavy, but beneath it was something else, a song rising, deep and soft, waiting to be sung. Behind her, the guards shifted uneasily. The jungle seemed to lean closer. Okai raised the staff high. "Serpent," he cried. "Your feast is here." The roar of the falls deepened. The cavern's darkness stirred. Something vast moved behind the curtain of water. Golden light flashed faintly, like eyes opening. Adura's heart pounded. The river's voice whispered again, "Adura." She drew a deep breath. The moment had come. The roar of the silver waterfall filled the air, drowning every sound but the pounding of Adura's heart. Mist clung to her skin, chilling her to the bone. She stood on the slippery rocks, her bare feet cold against the stone, the serpent staff gleaming in Okai's hand. The cavern waited beyond the curtain of water. Its mouth was wide, black, and breathing. Each time the waterfall broke against the rocks, a cool gust rushed out as if the cave exhaled. The air smelled of wet stone and something sharper, a musk that carried the weight of scales and blood. "Walk," Okai ordered, his voice hard as iron. He struck the staff on the ground. The carved serpent's head seemed to hiss in the spray. Adura took a step. Her legs trembled, but she lifted her chin. Behind her, the guards closed in, spears at the ready. She glanced once toward the trees. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw a shadow move, broad shoulders, steady eyes, but when she blinked, it was gone. She knew Baku was near. That was enough. The waterfall thundered louder as she neared. The spray slapped her face, soaking her wrapper. She pushed through the white sheet of water, the world blurring around her. And then, with a gasp, she stepped into shadow. The cavern swallowed the light. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling. Pools shimmered faintly, reflecting what little glow filtered in from cracks above. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of moss, old blood, and scales that had slid across stone for centuries. Adura froze. The ground was littered with bones. White, smooth, brittle. Skulls of women. Broken ribs. Finger bones scattered like spilled beads. She pressed her hand to her mouth, but her breath still caught in her throat. Behind her, the guards entered, their footsteps echoing. Okai raised the staff, his voice ringing through the cavern. "Great serpent," he cried. "Come forth. Your queen sends your feast." The echo of his words bounced and broke, filling the cavern with his own voice whispering back at him, "Feast, feast, feast." Adura shivered. Her eyes darted to the shadows at the far end. Something moved, slow, heavy, deliberate. The ground trembled faintly. From the darkness, a shape slid forward. First, a thick coil, scales glistening black and gold in the fractured light. Then another, and another, winding like a river come alive. The coils were as wide as tree trunks. Mist clung to them, softening their outline but not their terror. Then the head emerged. Broad, heavy, shining with water. Its eyes opened, black, glossy, and ancient. They gleamed with cold intelligence. The serpent's tongue flicked, tasting the air. The guards stiffened. Some took half a step back. Even Okai's grip on the staff trembled. Adura's knees weakened, but she did not collapse. The river's voice filled her chest again, stronger now. "Adura." The serpent lowered its head, the golden light in its eyes reflecting the faint shimmer of the pools. Its massive jaws opened slightly, and a long hiss slid from its throat. The sound echoed through the cavern like the sigh of 1,000 storms. Adura gasped. She could not tell if the serpent meant to strike, or to listen. Okai thrust the staff forward. "Take her," he commanded. "Drink, great serpent, and remember your queen." The serpent's eyes flicked to the staff. For a heartbeat, its tongue stilled. Then it turned its head slowly back to Adura. Her breath quickened. She pressed her hands against her chest. The pendant swung wildly with each tremble. She felt the river's hum rise into her throat. A song sat there, pressing against her lips. She remembered Grandmother F's words, "When the river calls your name, answer only with truth." Adura closed her eyes. The cavern fell away. The roar of the waterfall became a drum. The bones became whispers. She opened her mouth, and her voice rose soft but clear. "I am here." The sound carried. It slid over the bones. It curled around the coils. It touched the serpent's ears. The air trembled. The serpent froze. Its tongue flicked once. Its head lowered further, until its eyes were level with hers. Its breath rushed over her, damp and warm. The golden gleam in its gaze shifted. For the first time, it did not look like hunger. It looked like recognition. Gasps broke from the guards. One dropped his spear. Another stumbled backward. Okai's face twisted. "No," he cried. He slammed the staff on the ground. "Obey. Obey the queen." The serpent hissed, loud and sharp, so loud the walls shook. The echo shattered Okai's command into pieces. The staff quivered in his hands. Adura opened her eyes. Her tears sparkled in the faint light, but her voice did not break. She stepped forward once, bare feet pressing against the cold stone. "I am Adura," she said, stronger now. "Daughter of the river. Blood of the priestesses you betrayed." The serpent's coils shifted. Slowly, deliberately, it bowed its massive head. The cavern shook. The pools rippled. The bones rattled like drums. Okai stumbled back, his mouth open. "Impossible," he whispered. "The serpent bows to no one but the queen." Adura lifted her chin. The river's song swelled in her chest, a low, steady hum that filled the air. She did not yet know the words, but she knew the power. In the shadows at the cavern's edge, Baku's hand tightened around his blade. His eyes burned with awe and fear. He had seen many things in his life, but never this, a serpent bowing to a girl whose voice was now louder than fear. And deep in the earth, the chains of blood magic trembled. The cavern trembled with the echo of the serpent's bow. Bones rattled against the stone floor like teeth chattering. Pools rippled, throwing broken reflections of Adura and the serpent's golden eyes. The guards gaped, their fear thick in the damp air. Okai's face twisted, half fear and half fury. His grip on the serpent staff shook. "No," he shouted. His voice cracked as it echoed back at him, "No, no, no." He slammed the staff against the ground again, harder, desperate. "You will not bow to her. By the Queen's blood, I command you, strike." The serpent hissed, long and thunderous. Its coils shifted, scraping against stone with the sound of grinding drums. But its eyes stayed locked on Adura. It did not strike. It lowered its head further, as if shielding her from Okai's rage. The guards shuffled back. One dropped his spear with a clatter that echoed through the cavern. Another muttered a prayer under his breath. Adura's heart pounded. She felt the river's song rising in her chest, louder, clearer. But fear pressed too, fear of Okai, fear of the guards, fear of her own trembling hands. And then a voice cut through the fear. "Enough." It rang strong, steady, like steel striking stone. From the shadows, Prince Baku stepped forward. His broad shoulders were wet with mist, his jaw set, his eyes burning. In his hand was a short blade, the edge glinting faintly in the fractured light. "Prince!" Adura gasped, her relief flooding like sunlight through clouds. Baku strode to her side. He placed himself between her and the staff, his stance wide and unshaken. His blade pointed not at the serpent, but at the guards. Okai's face darkened. "Foolish boy," he spat. "You dare defy the Queen's law. You will die for this." Baku raised his chin. His voice filled the cavern. "I do not defy the river. I do not defy the serpent. I defy the Queen's hunger. That is no law, it is chains of blood and lies." The guards hesitated, their spears wavering. Some glanced at the serpent, whose golden eyes glared at them with a cold light. None dared step forward. Okai snarled. "Kill him. Kill them both." But his order broke against silence. The guards shuffled, unwilling. One shook his head. Another lowered his spear. Fear bound them more than loyalty. Baku turned to Adura. His eyes softened. "You are not alone," he said, his voice low, meant only for her. "Do not fear. Sing if you must. I will bleed if I must. But I will not let them take you." Adura's throat tightened. Tears burned her eyes, but she nodded. "The river called me," she whispered. "I must answer." Okai's fury boiled over. He rushed forward, raising the staff to strike Adura. Baku moved faster. His blade flashed, slicing across Okai's arm. The staff clattered to the stone floor. A hiss erupted from the serpent so loud the walls shook. Okai stumbled back, clutching his bleeding arm, his eyes wide with shock and hatred. "Traitor!" Okai shouted. "You dare spill blood in the serpent's sight?" Baku raised his blade again, his stance firm. "If my blood must fall to weaken your Queen's spell, then let it fall," he said. His voice was calm, steady, though his chest heaved. Adura reached out, her fingers brushing his arm. "No," she whispered. But deep inside, she knew Olam's warning was true, only royal blood can weaken the Queen's chains. The serpent shifted, its massive coils circling them both. Its golden eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the prince's defiance and Adura's rising strength. Okai staggered back, his face pale, his hands still bleeding. "This is not finished," he hissed. "The Queen will burn you both." He turned and fled toward the cavern's edge, two guards scrambling after him. The rest stayed frozen, torn between fear of the serpent and fear of the Queen. Baku lowered his blade slightly, turning to Adura. "The moment is close," he said softly. "When the Queen comes, she will strike with all her power. But you must remember who you are." Adura met his gaze. Her hands shook, but her voice was steadier than her heart. "I am Adura," she said. "Daughter of the river. Blood of the priestesses." The serpent hissed again, softer now, like the sound of breath through hollow wood. It lowered its head until its snout touched the stone at her feet, bowing. Baku sheathed his blade and dropped to one knee beside her. His head bowed too, but not in fear, in respect. "Then let the river rise in you," he whispered. "Let it answer the queen." Adura's tears fell, but her lips curved faintly. She placed her hand on the serpent's head. Its scales were cool, smooth, and alive. Energy pulsed beneath them like the heartbeat of the river itself. In that moment, Adura felt something shift inside her. The river's song swelled, filling every vein, every breath, every tear. The cavern pulsed with it. The bones rattled like drums, the pools shimmered with light, and even the guards gasped as the air thickened with unseen power. Far above, the waterfall roared louder, as if the whole river answered her. And in the palace miles away, Queen Simu woke from uneasy sleep, her body trembling. She felt it, the chain around the serpent loosening. Her eyes burned with rage. She rose to her feet, her crown slipping askew. "No," she growled. "Not her. Not that girl. She will not take what is mine." She summoned her witches. Their chants filled the night, dark and sharp. The queen's power gathered like a storm, preparing to strike the cavern. But inside the cavern, Adura stood firm, her hand on the serpent, the river's song rising in her chest. The battle for blood, love, and destiny had truly begun. The cavern breathed, its damp walls alive with the hiss of dripping water. Pools rippled in rhythm with the serpent's massive coils. Adura stood with her hand on its head, her heart pounding in time with the river's hum in her chest. Prince Baku knelt beside her, blade ready, his jaw set. The guards who remained shuffled uneasily, their eyes darting between the girl, the prince, and the serpent that had dared to bow. The serpent's golden eyes glowed brighter, unblinking, fixed on Adura. Its tongue flicked once, tasting the air, tasting her. It leaned closer, its breath hot and damp across her face. Adura's lips parted. She did not flinch, though every part of her trembled. "Adura," the river whispered inside her chest. "Yes," she whispered back, her voice trembling but steady enough to carry. "I am here." The serpent's head lifted slightly. For a moment, its massive jaws opened, revealing fangs long as spears. The guards gasped and raised their shields. Baku tensed, shifting closer to Adura, blade raised to strike if it lunged. But the serpent did not strike. It hovered, jaws open, then closed slowly, uncertainly, as if weighing two paths, hunger or reverence. Its coils tightened, scraping against the cavern floor with a sound like grinding stone. Adura's heart raced. She remembered Grandmother F's words, "The serpent listens to echoes. Speak only truth, for lies will break against its ears." Her throat felt dry, but she forced her words out. "You are not a beast of hunger. You are a guardian. Bound, betrayed, forgotten, but not lost." The serpent froze. The pools shimmered brighter, as if light had stirred deep within them. Okai's voice shattered the moment. From the cavern's mouth, he appeared again, clutching his wounded arm, his eyes blazing with hatred. Behind him came two of the witches, their ash-lined eyes wide, their chants sharp as knives. "You dare speak to it as if it is yours?" Okai shouted. His voice echoed like thunder. "The serpent belongs to Queen Simu. It drinks by her command. It lives by her chains." The witches lifted their hands. Smoke rose from bowls they carried, thick and bitter. They chanted in a tongue older than the village, older than the queen's throne. The serpent hissed, jerking its head, its coils thrashing against the walls. The bones scattered across the ground rattled wildly. Adura stumbled back, her hand slipping from its head. The serpent reared, torn between her soft words and the witch's harsh commands. Its eyes flickered, golden one moment, black the next. Baku caught her arm, steadying her. "Hold on," he cried above the roar. "It listens to you, only you." The witches' voices grew louder, their smoke curling into the serpent's nostrils. The beast thrashed, its coils slamming the ground. Cracks spread across the cavern floor. Water spilled from broken pools. Adura's fear rose like fire in her chest, but so did the river's song. It pressed against her lips, begging to be sung. She closed her eyes and let it spill out. Her voice rose, clear and trembling, echoing off the walls. She did not know the words, but the song carried itself. It was the sound of water flowing over stone, of rain striking dry earth, of mothers singing children to sleep. It was the sound of her ancestors. The serpent froze. Its head jerked back from the smoke. Its eyes glowed gold again. Slowly, it lowered its head, its coils settling like rivers winding home. The guards fell to their knees, their spears clattering. Even the witches faltered, their chanting breaking for a heartbeat. Okai's face twisted. "No," he screamed. His voice cracked with fury. "The queen will not be betrayed by a child." He rushed forward, raising a dagger in his uninjured hand. Baku leapt, blocking him. Their blades clashed, sparks striking stone. The sound of steel rang through the cavern. Okai snarled, slashing wildly, but Baku met him stroke for stroke, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with defiance. Adura's song rose higher, the serpent swaying with the sound. Its tongue flicked, its body trembling as if chains deep within it were loosening. The cavern pulsed with power, old, sacred, alive. And far away, in her palace, Queen Simu staggered as if struck. She clutched her chest, her crown sliding askew. Her witches circled her, chanting louder, but she could feel it, the serpent was slipping from her grasp. Her eyes blazed. "No," she hissed. "Not her. Not now. I will strike myself if I must." She raised her hands, blood dripping from her palms as she carved new symbols in the air. Dark magic gathered around her, swirling like a storm. Her voice rose, filled with rage. In the cavern, the ground shook violently. Stones fell from the ceiling. The pools boiled. A shadow spread across the walls, darker than the smoke, colder than the mist. It pressed inward, choking the light, silencing the guards' prayers. Adura faltered. Her song cracked. Fear surged. The serpent hesitated. Its head turned from her to the shadow, its eyes flickering uncertainly. "Adura!" Baku shouted, locking blades with Okai, their faces inches apart. "Sing. Do not stop. It listens only to you." Adura clutched her pendant. Her tears spilled. Her voice wavered. But deep inside, the river's hum pulsed steady, stronger than her fear. She drew a shaking breath, lifted her chin, and sang again, louder, clearer, her voice breaking through the shadow like dawn through night. The serpent roared, its hiss shaking the cavern. The shadow wavered. The witches screamed, clutching their heads. Okai stumbled back, his dagger slipping from his grasp. The serpent lowered its head once more, pressing its snout against the stone at Adura's feet, bowing. The cavern shook. The chains of blood cracked. But above them, Queen Simu's voice thundered, filled with fury and magic. "This ends now." The cavern shook like the belly of a drum. The serpent hissed, its sound so loud that the bones of maidens rattled and clattered across the floor. Water burst from the pools, spraying the guards, who cried out and scrambled to shield themselves. The air grew thick, heavy, as if it were being pulled tight by unseen hands. From above came a voice, Queen Simu's voice, deep and sharp, carried on wind and shadow. "You dare sing my chains apart, girl? You dare turn the serpent against me?" The air turned hot. Red light flared through the cracks in the cavern ceiling. Fire spilled down like threads of blood, twisting and writhing into shapes of claws and fangs. The witches fell to their knees, their ash-lined eyes wide as they stretched their hands upward, feeding the queen's spell with their chants. Prince Baku shoved Okai back, blade flashing. "Your chains are breaking, queen," he shouted into the firelit air. "The river is not yours." A laugh answered him, cold and bitter. "And yet your blood, prince, is mine to claim." The flames swirled downward, forming a burning figure, a shadow of Queen Simu herself. Her eyes glowed white, her hair floated as if underwater, and her arms stretched wide. Every movement spat sparks that burned the stone black. The guards screamed. Two fled toward the cavern mouth, but the fire lashed out, striking them down. Their cries echoed and then were cut short. Adura clutched her pendant, the river song trembling on her lips. "Baku," she cried. "She is too strong. Sing." Baku shouted, blocking Okai's renewed charge. Their blades clashed again, sparks mixing with fire. Sweat poured down his face. "Do not let her silence you." Adura closed her eyes. The river surged in her chest. She sang again, her voice high and trembling, but steady enough to rise above the flames. It echoed against the stone, soft and pure. The serpent roared, its coils lashing the cavern walls. Chunks of rock fell from the ceiling, crashing into the pools below. With each note of Adura's song, the golden glow returned to the serpent's eyes. With each lash of Simu's fire, the glow dimmed. Enough. Simu's shadow shrieked. Fire coiled into a spear and shot toward Adura. Baku moved without thought. He stepped between Adura and the fire. The spear struck his side, searing flesh, burning cloth. He cried out, staggering, but he did not fall. Blood poured from the wound, crimson dripping onto the cavern floor. It struck the stone with a hiss, and glowed. The glow spread in lines, weaving across the ground like cracks filled with light. Adura gasped. She remembered Olam's words, "Only royal blood can weaken the queen's chains." The serpent hissed, its coils shuddering. The chains of blood magic, unseen but heavy, cracked again. A sound like iron snapping filled the air. Simu's shadow screamed, a sound that shook the guards to their knees. No. Not his blood. Not now. Baku gritted his teeth, his hand pressing against his wound. His knees buckled, but he forced himself upright, blade still raised. His voice was hoarse but steady. "If my blood weakens your spell, then let it fall. I give it freely, not to you, but to her. To the river." Adura's tears fell hot on her cheeks. She stepped to his side, slipping her arm around him, holding him steady. Her voice broke but did not stop. She sang louder, stronger, pouring her grief and love into every wordless note. The serpent bowed low, its golden eyes blazing. With a roar, it struck at the fire chains, its massive coils thrashing, breaking the queen's hold. Sparks flew, fire shattered, the witches screamed and fell back, their bowls spilling black smoke across the floor. Simu's shadow faltered, shrinking, her form twisting with rage. "You think this will end me?" she spat. "I am the queen. I am the serpent's master." Adura stepped forward, still holding Baku. Her voice rose higher, filling the cavern with light. "You are no queen of the river. You are only a thief who bound what was never yours. The river does not serve you. The serpent does not serve you. And neither do we." The cavern walls shone with her song. The pools blazed like mirrors filled with stars. The serpent reared high, then struck downward with a force that shook the earth. Its coils smashed the fire form of the queen, scattering sparks and smoke. The shadow screamed as it tore apart, vanishing into the cracks of the stone. Silence fell. The flames faded. Only the serpent's hiss remained, low and steady, echoing like the breath of the earth. Baku collapsed to his knees, his hand still pressed to his bleeding side. Adura knelt with him, her tears dripping onto the stone. The glowing cracks pulsed faintly, as if drinking his blood, then dimmed. The serpent lowered its head once more, bowing to Adura. Its eyes gleamed golden, unblinking. But Adura's heart trembled. The battle was not over. The queen was not dead. She could feel it, the echo of Simu's rage still burned beyond the cavern, gathering strength. And the serpent, though free of chains, now looked at her not just as a priestess reborn, but as its heir, its chosen. Adura whispered, her voice breaking, "What have we begun?" The serpent's hiss curled around her like an answer. The cavern was quiet, too quiet. No guards moved. No witches chanted. Even the pools lay still, as if holding their breath. Only the serpent's hiss filled the space, low and steady, like the sound of a storm far away. Adura knelt on the stone, her arms around Baku. His face was pale, his side wet with blood, but his eyes were open. He looked at her, weak but steady. "Do not stop," he whispered. "Sing." Her throat tightened. She wanted to cradle him, to cry, to bind his wound with her hands. But the river pulsed in her chest, pressing against her ribs, against her lips. She understood now, it would not wait. The song had to come. She closed her eyes. The cavern faded. The bones at her feet, the hiss of the serpent, even the warmth of Baku's blood, all fell away. She heard only the river. Its roar was not just water, it was voices. Many voices. Women's voices, rising like wind through leaves. "Adura," they called. "Adura, child of our blood. Adura, daughter of the river. Rise." Her lips parted. The song poured out. It was not hers alone. It was old, older than Queen Simu's chains, older than the village, older than the cavern itself. It was the song the priestesses once sang to wake the river at dawn and to lull it at dusk. It was the song of guardians, of women who had walked barefoot along the water's edge, carrying beads of blue and white, whispering prayers that shaped the flow of rain. Her voice echoed off the cavern walls. It slid across the pools, shaking their surfaces until they glowed. It rose into the cracks above, lifting the mist. It carried the scent of rain, fresh and clean, washing over the smell of smoke and blood. The serpent reared high, coils arching like living rivers. It swayed with the rhythm of her song, its eyes blazing gold. With each note, chains shattered, chains unseen, but felt. The air grew lighter, freer, as though centuries of weight were lifting. The guards dropped their spears and bowed their heads, trembling. Even Okai, pressed against the wall clutching his wounded arm, stared in awe, his hatred broken for a moment by fear. Baku, though weak, closed his eyes and let the song wash over him. Pain still burned his side, but the sound filled him with strength, with peace. He whispered, "You are the river, Adura." Above, Queen Simu staggered in her palace. Her witches surrounded her, but their chants faltered under the power of the song. She pressed her hands to her ears, screaming. "No. Stop!" her voice. Her crown slipped from her head and clattered to the floor. But the song only grew. Light shimmered in the cavern. From the pools rose shapes of women, translucent, glowing faintly blue. They wore beads, white and blue, their hair braided long. Their eyes were calm, full of sorrow and love. They were the priestesses, the sisters Simu had betrayed. They circled Adura, their voices joining hers. Together, their song rose higher, louder, weaving through the cavern like water through reeds. Adura opened her eyes. Tears streamed down her face. The spirits looked at her with warmth. One reached out, her hand cool and soft against Adura's cheek. "You are ours," she whispered. "You are what we left behind. Our blood, our song, our hope." Adura's voice broke, but she kept singing. She let their strength flow into her. She felt their hands on her shoulders, their arms around her, their presence filling her like a river spilling over its banks. The serpent lowered its head again, pressing its snout to the stone before her. Its coils formed a circle around her and Baku, enclosing them in protection. Its hiss softened, turning into a sound like a deep hum, blending with the song. The witches who had followed Okai into the cavern screamed, their bodies convulsing. The song was too strong. Their bowls shattered. Smoke poured out, not black now, but white, vanishing into the air. They fell to the ground, lifeless. Okai pressed his back against the wall, his eyes wide, sweat pouring down his face. "This cannot be," he whispered. The queen's chains were eternal. She said, his words died in his throat. Adura's voice lifted one final note, higher, purer than any before. It pierced the cavern roof, shot through the waterfall, and soared into the sky. The clouds above split, and for the first time in many seasons, rain fell, not storm rain, not wrathful, but soft, cleansing rain. In the palace, Queen Simu screamed as the rain touched her. It burned her skin, seared her hands. She fell to her knees, her power unraveling. The witches at her side collapsed, their chants silenced. The walls of her chamber cracked, the serpent symbols fading into dust. In the cavern, the spirits faded slowly, their voices softening into whispers. They touched Adura's hands, her shoulders, her face one last time. "Guard well," they said. "The river is yours, and you are the river." Then they were gone, their glow sinking into her chest. Adura fell to her knees, exhausted, her voice breaking into sobs. The serpent lay still beside her, its great head bowed, its coils resting. Baku leaned against her, blood still dripping from his wound, his breathing shallow. He whispered, "You did it. You freed it." Adura held him, tears falling onto his face. "No," she whispered. "We did." But deep inside, she knew the battle was not over. The queen still lived, broken but dangerous. And the river had bound her now, not as a maiden, not as a daughter, but as a guardian. Her fate was sealed. The rain still fell, soft and clean, dripping through cracks in the cavern roof. It cooled the stone, washed the bones, and soothed the serpent's trembling coils. For the first time in living memory, the air inside the cavern did not stink of fear. It smelled of rain, of life. Adura knelt with Baku in her arms. His blood had slowed, but his face was pale. She pressed her hand against his wound, whispering the river's song as softly as she could, letting each note carry strength into him. His eyes fluttered, then steadied on her. He tried to smile. "You sing even for me," he murmured. "I thought the river's song was only for itself." "It is for all who belong to it," she whispered. Her tears fell onto his cheek. "And you belong." The serpent lay coiled around them, its golden eyes watchful. It hummed low, almost like a drum, steady and protective. But suddenly the hum faltered. The serpent raised its head sharply, tongue flicking. Its coils shifted uneasily. Adura felt it too. The rain grew colder. The pools rippled without touch. A shadow crept across the walls, thicker, darker than smoke. And then came the voice. "Did you think me broken, girl?" It was Queen Simu, her voice pouring into the cavern from everywhere at once. It was not her fire shadow this time, but her true self. The air thickened, pressing on lungs and bones. The stone walls shook as though her footsteps walked inside them. The cavern mouth flared with green light. There she stood, Queen Simu herself, robed in dark cloth, her crown crooked, her hands dripping with fresh blood. Her eyes blazed white, her face twisted with rage. Behind her shuffled 3 surviving witches, their bodies painted black with ash, their mouths chanting through broken teeth. The guards dropped to their knees, terror-struck. Okai staggered to her side, bowing so low his forehead struck stone. "My queen," he gasped. "Forgive me, the serpent." Silence. Simu's voice cracked like thunder. She struck him with the back of her clawed hand. He fell, blood spraying, his body limp. Adura rose slowly, her arms still around Baku to keep him upright. Her throat tightened, but she lifted her chin. "Your chains are broken, Simu. The river does not answer you. The serpent does not bow to you. It bows to me." The queen's lips twisted into a snarl. "You think yourself priestess reborn? You are a child. You are mine to consume." She raised her arms. The blood dripping from her hands ignited, twisting into green flames that spun into spears. The witches' chants grew louder, feeding the fire until the cavern blazed with unnatural light. The serpent hissed and reared, coils lashing. It struck at the queen, but she raised her hand and screamed a word in the old tongue. Green fire wrapped around the serpent's head, forcing it back. The beast thrashed, its hiss turning into a roar that shook the ceiling, stones crashing down. Adura cried out, running forward. She pressed her palm to the serpent's scales. "Hold, guardian," she shouted, her voice rising with the river's hum. She sang a note, trembling but fierce, and the golden glow returned to its eyes. The fire cracked, struggling against the song. Simu laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "Sing all you want. I taught the river its first song. I bound its guardian with my own blood. My voice will always be louder than yours." Her voice rose into a scream. The flames surged, filling the cavern, burning the stone black. The witches shrieked, their bodies shaking as the power consumed them. Baku forced himself to his feet, staggering, his blade still in his hand. His voice rang out, hoarse but steady. "Your voice may be loud, Simu, but your blood is rotten. Mine still runs true. And it will not serve you." He sliced his palm with his blade. Blood splashed onto the stone, glowing red gold as it touched the cracks. The cavern floor shone again, the light spreading like rivers beneath their feet. The serpent roared. The fire wavered. Adura's song swelled, rising above Simu's scream. The voices of the priestesses whispered faintly around her, guiding her notes, weaving her fear into strength. Simu's eyes widened, fury turning to desperation. She clawed at the air, her crown slipping further, her voice cracking. "No. I will not be undone by children. I am eternal." The serpent lunged, snapping its massive jaws. Simu threw fire spears, striking its coils, burning its scales, but it did not stop. It crashed against her shield of flames, forcing her backward. Adura's voice rose one final note, higher than ever, shattering the last of the fire. The serpent's head struck forward. Its coils whipped around Simu, binding her in their crushing grip. The queen screamed, thrashing, her claws tearing at the scales. Blood poured from her hands, but her magic faltered. The witches dropped, lifeless, their chants cut short. Adura stepped closer, tears streaming. "The river was never yours. You stole it. You fed it blood. But now it takes you back." Simu's eyes blazed white one last time. "If I fall," she gasped, "you fall with me." The serpent roared and dragged her toward the pools. With a final scream, the queen vanished into the dark waters. The cavern shook as if swallowing her rage. Then silence. Only the serpent remained, its coils steaming, its head bowed low to Adura. Adura's voice broke into sobs. She collapsed to her knees, Baku catching her though his own strength wavered. He whispered hoarsely, "It is done." But in her heart, Adura knew it was not. The serpent's eyes gleamed, unblinking, waiting. She felt its breath on her skin, not as hunger, but as claim. The river had chosen. And now, so had the serpent. The cavern fell silent after Queen Simu's scream was swallowed by the black waters. The ripples spread across the pools, slow and steady, like the river itself was sighing. The green fire faded from the walls, leaving only the faint silver glow of cracks above where rain still dripped through. The serpent lay still, its coils steaming, its head lowered before Adura. Its golden eyes watched her, unblinking, ancient, knowing. Adura knelt, trembling, her breath ragged. Her hands were raw from clutching the serpent's scales, her throat sore from singing. Baku leaned against her, bloodied but upright, his hand still pressed to his side. He looked at her with awe, with sorrow, with love. "You did it," he whispered. "The queen is gone. The people are free." Adura shook her head slowly. She touched her pendant, her tears dripping onto it. "No," she whispered. "It is not finished. The serpent is not only freed. It is waiting." Baku frowned, struggling to rise straighter. Waiting for what? Adura turned her eyes to the serpent. Its coils shifted, circling wider around them, not in threat but in claim. Its hiss rolled low, steady, curling like words she almost understood. "The river has chosen," she said softly. Her voice cracked. "I am bound to it now. To this cavern. To the serpent. I am its guardian." Baku's heart jolted. He grabbed her hand, gripping it tight. "No. You broke the queen's chains, you can break this too. We can leave. We can return to the village. We can live." Adura's tears fell faster. She shook her head. The song was not only a weapon. It was a vow. "I called the river. I answered it. I became its voice. It will not let me go." Baku's hand trembled in hers. "Then I will stay," he said, his jaw set. If you are bound, then bind me too. I will live here beside you. Adura turned to him, her eyes wide, her heart breaking. No, she whispered. The river will not take you. It will crush you. This is not your chain. It is mine. The serpent hissed again, louder, its coils shifting closer. The ground trembled beneath them. Its head lowered until its golden eye was level with Adura's face. She felt its breath, warm and damp, washing over her. She did not flinch. She touched its scale gently, her hand shaking. I am yours, she whispered. The serpent's eye glowed brighter, as if in answer. Its coils pressed tight around the cavern, sealing the entrance. Baku's chest heaved. No. Adura, don't. He tried to rise, but his wound pulled him back. He reached for her, his fingers grazing her arm. She turned, her face wet with tears, her voice soft but firm. You gave your blood to free me. Now I give my life to save you. Go back, Baku. Live for both of us. Live for the people. His throat closed. He shook his head, his tears falling freely now. I cannot leave you. I cannot. You must, she whispered. She placed her pendant in his hand, closing his fingers around it. Carry me in this. Carry me in the river. When you drink, when you bathe, when you hear the waterfall, I will be there. But I cannot walk with you anymore. The serpent lifted its head and hissed, the sound filling the cavern, shaking the walls. The pools glowed faintly, their light spreading across the stone. Adura's body glowed too, her skin shimmering with a faint silver sheen. Baku cried out, clutching her hand. Adura. She smiled through her tears. I am the river now. I am its guardian. I am its curse. The serpent coiled tighter. The pools roared as if the cavern itself had become a waterfall. Mist rose, wrapping Adura in silver light. Baku's grip broke as the serpent drew her back, pulling her toward the shadowed pools. He fell forward on the stone, his cry echoing through the cavern. Adura. Her voice carried back through the mist, soft, like the river's whisper. I love you. And then she was gone, swallowed by the glow, the serpent's coils sinking into the waters. Silence followed. Only the drip of rain remained. Baku knelt on the cold stone, clutching her pendant in his bleeding hand. His heart shattered, his breath ragged. He pressed the pendant to his forehead, rocking back and forth. The serpent's hum echoed faintly, not menacing now, but steady, protective. It no longer bowed to the queen. It bowed only to Adura. But she was no longer his. She was no longer the village's. She belonged to the river. Forever. Baku staggered to his feet. His eyes burned with grief, but also with fire. He looked at the pools where she had vanished. I will not let you be forgotten, he whispered. The people will know your name. They will remember Adura, the river's guardian. He pressed the pendant to his chest. His steps were slow, heavy, but he walked back toward the cavern's mouth. Behind him, the serpent hissed softly, guarding, watching. As he stepped out beneath the waterfall, the mist kissed his face. He closed his eyes. For a moment, he thought he heard her voice in the water. I am here. The path back to you village was long, but Prince Baku felt none of it. His feet moved without thought, each step heavier than the last. The roar of the waterfall faded behind him, but its whisper clung to his ears, her whisper. I am here. In his hand, he clutched Adura's pendant so tightly the wood pressed into his skin. Her warmth lingered in it, faint but real, as if she still held his hand. His side throbbed where the queen's fire had struck him, but pain no longer mattered. The ache in his chest drowned it all. When the trees opened and the village huts came into view, the drums were already beating. Not the slow, heavy beat of fear, but a rapid rhythm of warning. Word had reached the village that fire had risen in the jungle, that the queen's magic had flared and broken. The people gathered in the square, their faces tense, their eyes wide, waiting. When Baku stumbled into the open, covered in blood and mist, the crowd gasped. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers murmured prayers. Saad ran forward first, her hands flying to her mouth. "Where is Adura?" she cried. Baku's throat closed. He sank to his knees in the dust. He opened his hand slowly, showing the pendant. The wooden charm glistened with tears and blood. The people groaned, their voices rising like a wave of grief. Nao, Adura's mother, pushed through the crowd. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. She saw the pendant and screamed, collapsing against Ade's chest. He held her tightly, his own tears falling silent. Baku bowed his head. His voice was hoarse. "She is gone, but not lost. The queen is no more. The serpent is free." And Adura, his voice cracked. He swallowed hard and forced the words. "Adura is the guardian now. She belongs to the river. She saved us." A hush fell over the square. The chief rose from his stool, his old hands trembling. "The queen is gone." Baku lifted his head. His eyes burned red, but his voice grew firm. "Simu is dead. Dragged into the depths. Her chains are broken. No maiden will be taken again." The silence broke into cries, some weeping, some shouting with joy, some falling to their knees in thanks. Mothers clutched their daughters as if afraid they might vanish. Fathers lifted their sons onto their shoulders, shouting to the sky. But not all were cheers. Some voices wailed louder, mourning Adura. Children cried her name. The women beat their chests, their songs full of sorrow. Baku rose unsteadily, gripping the pendant. "Do not mourn her as gone. She walks in the river. She lives in the waterfall. She is the maiden of the anaconda, the guardian who will protect us forever." The chief stepped forward, placing a hand on Baku's shoulder. "And you, prince, gave your blood. You stood against the queen. You carried her voice when fear threatened to silence it. You owes you its freedom." Baku shook his head. His tears spilled again. "I did nothing without her. It was Adura's song, Adura's courage. Remember her, not me." Nao stumbled forward, her face wet with tears. She placed her hand on Baku's arm. "Did she suffer?" she whispered. Baku's voice broke. "She was brave. Braver than any I have known. She did not suffer. She chose. She sang until the serpent bowed, until the queen was no more. She loved you." Nao sobbed, falling to her knees. Ade bent beside her, holding her tightly. The crowd bowed their heads, the sound of grief and gratitude mingling in the night air. As the stars rose, the villagers built a fire in the square. They sang, voices trembling but strong. Not the songs of fear they had sung for years, but songs of freedom. They called Adura's name, weaving it into the rhythm of the drums. Baku sat apart, the pendant clutched in his hand. He watched the fire, the sparks flying upward like pieces of her spirit. His heart ached with every beat, but beneath the ache was a vow. "She will not be forgotten," he whispered to the flames. "Not while I breathe. Not while the river flows." The drums carried her name into the night. Adura. Adura. The river's roar in the distance seemed to echo it back. Victory was theirs. But its price was carved deep in every heart. And from that night onward, no maiden was ever chosen for sacrifice again. But the people of URU spoke of the waterfall with reverence and fear. They said if you walked too close, you might see eyes gleaming in the mist, watching, protecting, the river forever. The maiden of the anaconda. Adura. The village square burned bright with firelight. Drums pounded in uneven rhythms, half triumph, half mourning. Mothers clutched their daughters close, whispering blessings over their heads. Men clasped one another's shoulders, speaking of freedom at last. But the air was thick with sorrow too, for Adura's name hung in every chant, every cry. Prince Baku sat apart, his body swaying with weariness, his hand gripping the wooden pendant until the edges cut into his palm. His side burned from the wound, but the ache in his heart was greater. He stared into the flames, lost in thought. A hand rested gently on his shoulder. He turned. Grandmother F stood there, her bird-carved stick in one hand, her eyes steady, her face lined but calm. She lowered herself beside him with a soft sigh. "You carry her still," she said, nodding to the pendant. Baku's voice cracked. "I carry only a piece of wood. The rest of her, the river has taken." F's gaze softened. "Not taken. Chosen." Baku clenched his jaw. "You knew, didn't you? You knew the song would bind her. You knew she could never return." The old woman nodded slowly. "I knew. The river does not give gifts without asking for keepers. Adura's blood was always the key. When she answered, the river claimed her as its own." Baku's hands trembled. "Then why did you let her go? Why didn't you stop her?" F's eyes gleamed with sadness. "Could you have stopped her? Could I? The river does not call the weak, Baku. It calls those who can bear the burden. If she had refused, the serpent would have torn us all apart. She chose so that the village might live." Baku's breath hitched. He bowed his head. "And now she suffers alone." "No," F said firmly, her hand pressing his arm. "She does not suffer. She has become what she was born to be. Priestess. Guardian. Curse. She is the river's protector now, and through her, the serpent is no longer a beast of hunger. She keeps it. She calms it. Without her, the queen's death would mean nothing, the serpent would rage free. Adura's voice holds it." The fire crackled between them. Villagers sang nearby, their voices rising and falling like waves. Baku lifted his eyes. "So this is her curse, to remain bound when she could have been free." F nodded slowly. "Yes. The maiden of the anaconda. Guardian of the cavern. The people will honor her, but she will never walk among them again." Baku's throat closed. He pressed the pendant to his lips, whispering, "She saved us, and we lost her." F looked at him long, her old eyes sharp. "Listen to me, Prince. Do not let grief make her sacrifice small. She is not lost. She is river, she is mist, she is song. Every time you drink, she will be there. Every time you walk by water, she will watch you. The people will not forget her, unless you let them." Baku met her gaze. His jaw tightened. "Then they will not forget. I will tell her story until my voice grows old. Children unborn will know her name." F smiled faintly. "That is why the river gave you to her, and her to you. Your love was never only for yourselves, it was for all of you. Are you?" The chief approached then, leaning on a carved staff. His face was grave, his step slow. The crowd quieted as he lifted his hand. "People of you are you," he said, his voice carrying. "Tonight, we are free. The queen is gone. The serpent no longer hungers for our daughters. But freedom has its price. Adura, daughter of Ade and Neo, gave her voice, her life, her soul to the river. She is no longer ours, but she is not gone. From this night, we call her by her true name, the Maiden of the Anaconda." The people murmured, bowing their heads. Mothers lifted their daughters to see the fire. Fathers struck their chests in respect. The chief raised his staff higher. "We will no longer sacrifice maidens. We will no longer bow to fear. But we will honor Adura in every prayer, every festival, every story told. The river has its guardian, and we have our freedom." The crowd roared, voices clashing, grief and gratitude bound together. Baku stood, though pain shot through his side. He lifted the pendant high. "Adura lives in this," he shouted. "She lives in the water, in the rain, in the serpent's bow. She is not gone. She is our guardian forever." The people echoed her name, Adura. Adura. Their voices carrying into the night, across the fields, to the river itself. And far away, at the waterfall's cavern, mist rose higher. If one listened closely, the sound of a woman's song wove into the roar of the water. A song soft but unending. The Song of Adura, Maiden of the Anaconda. The fires in the square burned late into the night, their smoke curling toward the stars. Villagers sang Adura's name until their throats grew hoarse, until their tears dried on their cheeks. When at last the drums quieted and the people returned to their huts, silence fell over you. But Prince Baku did not sleep. He sat alone on the edge of the square, Adura's pendant clutched tight in his hand. His wound had been wrapped with cloth by the healer, but the pain remained, sharp and hot. He welcomed it. It kept him awake. It kept him from forgetting what he had lost. The chief had offered him rest in the royal hut, but Baku refused. How could he lie on soft mats when Adura lay in the cold cavern, bound to the serpent? His eyes burned red. His lips were dry. He stared into the dying embers of the fire, and all he saw was her face, the way she smiled through tears, the way she sang until the cavern trembled, the way her hand slipped from his as the serpent drew her away. At dawn, Grandmother F found him still there, his body stiff, his eyes hollow. She lowered herself beside him, her bird-carved stick across her lap. "You did not sleep," she said. Baku shook his head. His voice was hoarse. "How can I sleep, knowing she will never return? I saved the people, yes. But I could not save her." F sighed, her wrinkled hand resting on his arm. "You speak as though you failed her. But you did not. You stood where no man dared. You bled where no man wished to bleed. You gave her strength to sing when her voice wavered. Without you, she would not have awakened." Baku's jaw tightened. "And still, she is gone. Gone." F shook her head. "No, Prince. She is changed. She is river, serpent, mist. She is not yours to hold, but she is not gone." Baku's throat closed. He pressed the pendant to his lips, whispering, "She said she loved me. And then the river took her." F's gaze softened. "Love does not die, Baku. It changes form, like water. Sometimes it flows beside you. Sometimes it sinks beneath. But it is always there." For a long while, they sat in silence, the morning birds singing in the trees. Finally, Baku rose, unsteady but determined. "I will not let her be forgotten," he said, his voice rough but firm. "I will speak her name until the children of children know it. I will tell her story until the serpent itself grows weary of hearing it." F nodded. "That is the task left to you. She guards the river. You must guard her memory." Days turned to weeks. Life in you changed. No maiden was taken. The guards no longer came with their serpent staffs. Mother smiled again, though their eyes still glistened when they fetched water. Girls laughed freely, no longer shrinking at the sound of drums. But Baku did not laugh. He walked among the people, helping mend roofs, helping harvest yams, training young men with spears. He carried himself with strength, but inside he felt hollow. At night, when others slept, he wandered to the riverbank. There he sat, staring at the silver mist above the falls. He whispered her name, waiting, listening. Sometimes he swore he heard her voice in the water. Soft, like a sigh. "I am here." The first time, he wept openly, his shoulders shaking. The second time, he smiled faintly through tears. But the third time, he only bowed his head, clutching the pendant, whispering, "I hear you, Adura. I will not forget." One evening, a group of children gathered around him. Saad brought them, her face still lined with grief but steadier now. "Tell them," she urged softly. "Tell them about her." Baku hesitated. His chest ached. But he looked into the children's wide eyes and saw hope. He sat down, the pendant in his hand. "She was chosen for sacrifice," he began, his voice low but steady. "But destiny chose her instead. The queen wanted her blood to bind the serpent forever. But Adura's voice broke the chains. She sang until the serpent bowed. She faced fire and shadow. And when the queen fell, Adura gave herself to the river, so that none of you would ever be taken." The children leaned closer, their eyes wide, their mouths open. "Is she dead?" one boy whispered. Baku shook his head slowly. No. She is not dead. She is river now. She is the mist in the waterfall. She is the voice in the currents. When you walk by the river, do not be afraid. If you hear your name in the water, it is her, watching, guarding. The children shivered, half afraid, half awed. A little girl whispered, "Will she come back?" Baku's heart clenched. He closed his eyes, then opened them. "No," he said softly. "But she will never leave. She is always here, in the river." The children nodded, clutching one another. Saad wiped her eyes, whispering, "You keep her alive in us." Baku bowed his head. "That is all I have left to give her." That night, alone again by the river, he stared at the mist rising from the falls. The moonlight painted it silver, and for a heartbeat, he thought he saw her shape, her braids shining, her eyes glowing faintly gold, her lips moving as if singing. He reached out, whispering, "Adura." The mist swirled. Her voice whispered back, soft, like a caress of water. "I am here." Tears slid down his cheeks. He clutched the pendant and whispered, "And I will always be with you." The river roared on, carrying his vow into the night. Seasons passed. The rains came and went, the yams grew fat in the earth, and the river flowed as it always had. But You village was no longer the same. Where once the people had lived under the shadow of the queen's hunger, they now lived free. No drums called for sacrifice. No guards marched with serpent staffs. The cavern lay silent but alive, its mist curling into the sky like the breath of a sleeping giant. Yet even as peace returned, the story of what had happened by the silver waterfall did not fade. It began with whispers. Mothers told daughters at night, Adura walked into the cavern, but the serpent bowed to her. Fathers told sons while sharpening spears, Prince Baku shed his blood so the queen's chains could break. Children whispered to one another by the river, if you lean too close, you might hear her voice in the mist. The whispers grew into songs. Women sang as they pounded yam. She was chosen for sacrifice, but her song awoke the serpent. Men sang as they paddled canoes across the river. Her blood broke the chains, her voice calmed the beast. The songs spread to neighboring villages. Traders carried them along narrow paths through the forest, repeating what they had heard, that the queen who had ruled with fire and fear had been dragged into the depths, and a maiden's voice had risen in her place. Soon, hunters in distant lands spoke of her around their fires. Fishermen whispered her name when the nets came up too heavy, thanking her for their catch. Women prayed to her when their children were sick, pouring water onto the ground in her honor. She was no longer only Adura. She was maiden of the anaconda, guardian of the river. Prince Baku watched this happen. At first, it pained him to hear her name spoken by others, their voices careless, not knowing the weight of her sacrifice. But then he realized, this was how she would live. Not only in him, not only in You, but in every voice that carried her story. One day, strangers came from a far-off village. They brought gifts, yams, beads, carved calabashes. They bowed low before the chief and said, "We heard of the girl who tamed the serpent. We heard she saved her people. We bring these gifts in her honor." The chief accepted with humility, but it was Baku who stepped forward, his voice clear. "Do not only bring gifts. Bring memory. Carry her name back to your people. Tell them she was Adura, daughter of Ade and Neo. Tell them she was chosen for sacrifice, but destiny chose her instead." The strangers nodded, promising to carry the story. And so it spread further. But legends do not spread only in truth. They twist, they grow, they take on lives of their own. Some said Adura had transformed into the serpent itself, her braids turned to coils, her eyes to golden fire. Others said she had become a spirit of mist, luring greedy men to their deaths if they tried to take more fish than they needed. Still others claimed she walked the riverbanks at night, barefoot and glowing, her song echoing through the trees. Baku heard these tales and smiled sadly. "They do not know her," he whispered to the pendant. "But at least they do not forget." At night, when the moon was bright, he often returned to the waterfall. He would sit on the stones, listening to the roar, hoping for a glimpse of her shape in the mist. Sometimes he thought he heard her whisper again, faint and soft, "I am here." Each time, it tore his heart open and healed it, all at once. One evening, a group of young warriors came to him. They bowed respectfully. "Prince," their leader said, "we heard the story of Adura. We want to know the truth from your own lips. Did the serpent bow to her? Did the queen truly fall?" Baku's eyes darkened, but his voice was firm. "Yes. I saw it. The serpent bowed, and the queen was dragged into the depths. Adura's song freed us all." The warriors leaned closer, wide-eyed. "And what of you? Did you fight her? Did you slay the queen?" Baku shook his head. "No man slew her. It was the serpent. And it was Adura's voice that commanded it. My blade did not free the people, her song did." The warriors murmured among themselves, impressed, awed. Baku looked at them sharply. "Remember this, do not turn her into only a tale of battle. She was not sword or spear. She was voice, courage, sacrifice. Tell it rightly." The young men nodded, bowing again. Grandmother F watched all this with quiet eyes. One evening, as the sun set red over the fields, she said to Baku, "You see now, don't you? She is not only yours. She is everyone's." Baku's throat tightened. He touched the pendant. "Yes. But sometimes I wish she had been only mine." F sighed. "The river does not belong to one person. It belongs to all who drink from it. And so it is with her. She is river now. She belongs to all." Baku's tears filled his eyes, but he nodded. "Then let them drink from her memory. Let them never thirst for truth." As months passed, distant villages sent delegations to URU. They came not to pay tribute to a king or a queen, but to honor Adura. They brought carvings of serpents, beads strung in her name, bowls of water carried from their rivers to pour into hers. One day, a child from another land stood before Baku. The boy held a small clay figure, a woman with braids and a serpent coiled around her. He held it out shyly. "My mother said I must give this," the child whispered. "She said the maiden of the anaconda protects children." Baku's eyes filled. He knelt, taking the figure gently. "She does," he said softly. "She protects all who walk beside the river." The boy smiled faintly and ran back to his mother. Baku stood, clutching the figure, the pendant pressed to his chest. He looked at the waterfall in the distance. "She is becoming more than I knew," he whispered. "She is becoming legend." And in the mist above the falls, the faint sound of a woman's song lingered, rising and falling with the roar of the water. Years passed. Seasons came and went. The yam fields rose golden, the rains returned in their time, and the river flowed as it always had. But one thing had changed forever: no maiden was ever taken again. Children grew up without the fear of drums calling them to sacrifice. Women fetched water from the river without trembling. Men fished without whispering prayers of dread. Yet no one forgot. On nights when the moon was full and the mist heavy over the silver waterfall, the people of URU gathered around fires. They told stories to the young, their voices low and reverent. And always, the story was the same. They spoke of Queen Simu, the priestess who betrayed her sisters, binding the serpent to her greed. They spoke of the people's long years of fear, of maidens lost to the cavern. They spoke of Prince Baku, who gave his blood to weaken the queen's chains. But above all, they spoke of Adura, who walked into the cavern chosen for sacrifice, but whose song broke the queen's curse. The elders would lean close to the children and whisper, "The serpent bowed to her, for she was the river's true daughter. She became the maiden of the anaconda, guardian, protector, and curse. She saved us all, but she could never return." And when the flames crackled, the children would shiver, asking, "Does she still watch us?" The elders would smile faintly. "Yes. When you walk by the water and hear your name, when the mist touches your face, when the serpent's eyes gleam golden in the shadows, that is Adura. She guards the river still. Prince Baku lived long. He never took a wife, though many begged him to. His heart belonged only to the girl who had become river and mist. He ruled with wisdom, carrying her pendant always against his chest. Whenever he spoke her name, the people bowed their heads in silence. When he died, the villagers buried him by the river's bend, where the current sang soft. They carved his grave with her name beside his, Adura, maiden of the anaconda. And so the story passed down, from fire to fire, from mouth to mouth, carried across rivers and forests. Some said Adura's eyes still gleamed in the mist. Some swore they heard her song in the rush of water. Others claimed she appeared in dreams to guide those who strayed. But all agreed on one truth: her sacrifice freed the people. Her voice became the rivers. The tale of Adura teaches that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to stand firm when fear surrounds you. Power built on greed and blood will always fall, but sacrifice made in love lives forever. Sometimes the greatest victories demand the deepest losses, and the truest freedom is born from the voices of those who give themselves for others. If you were in Adura's place, chosen for sacrifice but given the power to change destiny, would you embrace the burden, even if it meant losing yourself forever? Share your thoughts in the comments below.